Chapter 13:18. The raging, undying divine fire seemed like it was going to burn through the entire world. The extremely terrifying immortal energy was released from Tianyang's body. Even the heaven's expanse saint spirit revealed a look of shock on his face. What's going on? Tianyang did not eat any elixirs, nor did he absorb any spiritual qi. How could he suddenly ignite such a powerful, undying divine fire? At the same time, Tianyang's flesh was regenerating rapidly. Tianyang's physical body had already reached the physical sanctification realm. Therefore, as long as he had enough undying divine fire, it would be easy for him to regenerate it. The heavens expanse, Holy Spirit naturally thought of this. However, there was something he could not understand. Why did Tianyang's body suddenly burn with such a powerful, undying divine fire? According to the density of Tianyang's bloodline, it should not be. The Xianyuan family had always claimed that Tianhao's undying bloodline had tainted Xianyuan Qingming's Xian God bloodline. However, the heavens expanse Holy Spirit had always known that it was Xianyuan Qingming's Xian God bloodline that had tainted the undying bloodline. After all, no matter how strong a Xian God was, he was just the godly state cultivator. The undying heavenly Lord was an immemorial emperor. In terms of strength, he could easily crush countless godly state cultivators. At the same time, Tianyang's aura was recovering rapidly in the undying divine fire. The spiritual qi in the surroundings also surged into Tianyang's body crazily. Body refinement realm, bright qi realm, transforming origin realm, Tao fire realm, Sea of Soul realm, Heavenly Ascension realm, Wuzun realm, Saint realm. This time, Tianyang seemed to have reconstructed his cultivation. His Tao foundation was even more perfect. A total of 10 days passed. The undying divine fire burning on Tianyang's body slowly dissipated. As for the heavens expanse Holy Spirit, he was shocked speechless by the changes in Tianyang's body. It should be known that Tianyang was only at the intermediate saint stage, even if he used the Sky Cloud Sword and the heaven-devouring secret skill to the maximum. Right now, Tianyang's cultivation base was already at the mid-level saint realm. If those sage realm almighties who might not be able to make a breakthrough, even after cultivating for thousands of years, were to know about this, they would probably vomit blood on the spot. This cultivation speed, it's all right. The undying divine flame had completely dissipated. Tianyang's eyes seemed to be twinkling with starlight. If the current him were to fight Xianyuan Kongming, he would definitely be able to kill him within an hour. If he were to fully unleash the heaven-devouring secret art and the firmament sword, his battle prowess would at least be comparable to a great sage heavenly rank expert. Even so, Tianyang didn't look happy at all. Looking at Ling Yuhan, who maintained her poignant smile, Tianyang felt a stab of pain in his heart. All of this was because he wasn't strong enough. If he could kill Xianyuan Kongming in an instant, how could he have allowed Xianyuan Kongming to awaken old ancestor Xianyuan in advance? If he had the cultivation base of a saint emperor, he could have killed the white-haired youth in an instant. How could Ling Yuhan risk her life to forcefully unleash the 9 Nether Frost technique? How could he have allowed the heavens expanse Holy Spirit to help Yun Xianyuan awaken the Xianyuan Yin body to save their lives? Everything was because of his strength. Everything was because he wasn't strong enough. Heavens expanse Holy Spirit. At this moment, Tianyang spoke slowly. You should know how to revive Yuhan, right? Ling Yuhan was still alive. As long as she was alive, Tianyang wouldn't use the word revive. I know. The heavens expanse, Holy Spirit nodded. She was the one who saved Ling Yuhan. Naturally, she knew how to revive Ling Yuhan. There are 2 reasons why Ling Yuhan is in a frozen state now. Firstly, her life is too weak now. Her true core power and primordial spirit power have been severely overdrawn. Secondly, she released too much 9 Nether power, which almost caused her 9 Nether saint body to collapse. Even though I saved a part of it, it still caused a backlash. That's why Ling Yuhan's body is covered in ice formed by the 9 Nether power, the heavens expanse Holy Spirit said. Hearing that, Tianyang's face lit up with joy. So you're saying that as long as I solve these 2 problems, Yuhan can be revived? It's hard to say, but it's very possible. However, the most important thing now is that you have to find the level 8 sacred flame to melt the ice on Ling Yuhan's body. Otherwise, no matter what you do, it's just empty talk. Hearing that, Tianyang was stunned. Level 8 sacred flame? Will half a step to level 8 sacred flame work? In the ancestral dragon godland, the true destruction flames had swallowed a magma fire spirit. Now, it had broken through to half a step to level 8 sacred flame. It was close to becoming a real level 8 sacred flame. However, hearing that, the heavens expanse Holy Spirit shook her head. No. In fact, it's not certain if the level 8 sacred flame can resolve the backlash of the 9 nether power on Ling Yuhan. Although your half a step to level 8 sacred flame is powerful, it's still too weak. Hearing that, he sighed. Then, as if he had thought of something, he said hurriedly, if I use the immortal fire, no. If Ling Yuhan is only suffering from the backlash of the 9 nether power, you have to use the immortal fire. However, not only is Ling Yuhan suffering from the backlash of the 9 nether power, but she's also burning the 9-tailed moon fox bloodline. The immortal fire is the condensation of the immortal bloodline. If you use the immortal fire, even if a trace of the immortal bloodline enters Ling Yuhan's body, it will cause a conflict between the remaining 9-tailed moon fox bloodline and the immortal bloodline in Ling Yuhan's body. If Ling Yuhan is in perfect condition, she might be able to benefit from this disaster. The immortal bloodline and the 9-tailed moon fox bloodline can merge and form an even stronger bloodline. However, Ling Yuhan can't withstand the fight between the two bloodlines now. Moreover, the immortal bloodline is almost one-sided against the 9-tailed moon fox bloodline. At that time, you'll only be harming her. The heavens expanse Holy Spirit said solemnly, her expression serious. She was really afraid that Tianyang would be anxious to save his wife and use the immortal fire. If that was the case, Ling Yuhan would definitely die. Even if Tianyang's bloodline was extremely weak and tainted by the Xian God bloodline, the little bit of his bloodline that entered Ling Yuhan's body might not be able to defeat the pure-blooded 9-tailed moon fox bloodline. The heavens expanse Holy Spirit did not dare to take this risk. Tianyang was the same. Also, you'd better find a mild level 8 holy flame. Your true flames of destruction are too strong and overbearing. It might cause harm. The heavens expanse Holy Spirit said. Hearing that, Tianyang nodded. Since this matter concerned Ling Yuhan, Tianyang's level of caution was naturally the highest. All right, this is what Master's parents left for you before they left. It seems to contain the cultivation method of the immortal divine body. At this moment, Yin Xianyuan opened his mouth and handed Xianyuan Qingming and Tianhao space bags to Tianyang. Hearing that, Tianyang was stunned. Father and mother have left? Yes, they said that they don't want to be a burden to you. Yin Xianyuan said. Hearing that, Tianyang could only nod. All right. After that, Tianyang took out a piece of bone from Tianhao's space bag. Like the indestructible eye and the indestructible bone, it was pure white and flawless, a treasure made by the heavens. Within it, there was an immense amount of bloodline power. If the 3 pieces of bone that Tianyang had taken were put together, it could faintly form the shape of a human. However, Tianyang did not mind. What Tianhao had taken should have been duplicated. After that, Tianyang sent the power of his primordial spirit into the white bone. In the next moment, the cultivation method of the immortal divine body crashed into Tianyang's mind. To heavenly have heavenly body, holy blood body. Yin to the end heavens, heavenly, heavenly, heavenly with to. Heaven and God Chi was to it, it was to the heaven and earth. Was heavenly, he's it, heaven, spiritual, spiritual, heaven, heaven, heavens, spiritual, chi, chi. It could be said that all of the energy that he had used to devour the venomous insect King Chi had been used up. Even the heavens expanse Saint Spirit had used up some of it. Back then, when she was with the 9 universes Saint Emperor, she had not even put in so much effort. 5 days later, Tianyang did not cultivate the immortal blood for too long before he came out of seclusion. Even with Tianyang's powerful martial talent, he had only reached the initial success of the imperishable blood. Compared to the imperishable bone and the imperishable eye, it was far too lacking. However, Tianyang didn't care. He wasn't pursuing the peak of martial arts right now. Instead, it was to increase his strength and search for a rank 8 holy flame. As for the Heaven's Expanse St. Palace's Heaven's Expanse God tier, Tianyang had once again challenged it in these 5 days. Just like how he surpassed the limits of Wuzun, Tianyang had also surpassed the limits of the Sage Realm. From level 10,081 all the way to level 64,529, the first 10,000 levels of the Boundless Divine tier. The Wuzun tier was from 10,000 to 60,000 levels. The Saint tier included the Great Saint tier. From level 60,000 to level 99,900 and 99,999, the Saint Emperor realm. Level 100,000, which was the limit of the Boundless Heaven tier. According to Tianyang's current understanding, it should be God realm. Tianyang could also roughly guess who the creator of the Heaven's Expanse Temple was. Perhaps he was an immortal realm almighty. However, there were also differences in the immortal state. The weakest immortal state that Tianyang had seen should be the Tyrant Dragon God, followed by the Snow Goddess and the Profound God. For the Heaven's Expanse Emperor Lord to be able to create an existence like the Heaven's Expanse Saint Palace, he should not be weak even among the godly state. Unfortunately, even though Tianyang had obtained a lot of materials for the Great Void Sword embryo from the Heaven's Expanse Temple and upgraded it to the pinnacle of the Saint Weapon level, it was still not enough. Neither did he obtain an 8th Order Holy Flame. But where am I supposed to find a Class 8 Holy Flame, and a gentle one at that? Tianyang's brows furrowed. An 8th Order Sacred Flame was an extremely powerful spiritual flame. Usually, it was only in the hands of the Great Saint or Saint Emperor factions. Although the Saint Emperor factions might not have a real Saint Emperor, Tianyang could not possibly find trouble with them. Who knew if the Saint Emperor factions would summon a half-Saint Emperor old ancestor? None of the factions in the mysterious sky great world were simple. Bantan Simun's spiritual flame is only half a step away from Class 8 Holy Flame. If it is devoured by the true destructive flames, it might be able to break through to Class 8 Holy Flame. But if Yuhan gets hurt, then we're done for, Tianyang said softly. Beside him, the Heaven's Expanse Saint Spirit's face turned ugly, but there was nothing he could do. Even the Heaven's Expanse Temple did not have one. Thus, it was almost impossible to obtain a Class 8 Holy Flame. That, Master, I might know something. At that moment, Yin Xinyuan spoke. Hearing that, Tianyang was stunned. Then, he grabbed Yin Xuanyuan's shoulder excitedly. Really? The most important thing now was the Class 8 Holy Flame. As for recovering life force, Tianyang was now at the level of a saint alchemist. He could refine countless pills. However, the Class 8 Holy Flame was also the most difficult to overcome. If he could obtain the Class 8 Holy Flame, then Ling Yuhan would be halfway through her recovery. Yes. Yin Xuanyuan's face turned red when Tianyang grabbed her shoulder so hard. Seeing that, Tianyang was stunned. Then, he quickly let go of his hands. After all, he had a saint body, and Yin Xinyuan was only a beginner saint. His physical body could probably smash Xinyuan Yin to smithereens. If you were to grab her with such force, Xinyuan Yin wouldn't feel good. It's in the Southern Devil's Sea. Yin Xinyuan hurriedly said, as if she was afraid that she would not be able to say it. Southern Devil's Sea? Tianyang was stunned when he heard that. His expression turned serious. The Southern Devil's Sea was the most mysterious and chaotic place in the entire Xintian Great Cosmos. In the Eastern Divine Continent, the Central Divine Continent, and other places, demonic sects were hated by everyone. However, in the Southern Devil's Sea, all kinds of demonic sects were the masters of the Southern Devil's Sea. Chaos, danger, but also countless opportunities. This was the Southern Devil's Sea. Over there, even in a big city, one had to be on guard at all times. Perhaps a formation would suddenly appear under one's feet and devour one completely. When he heard that the Class 8 spiritual fire had appeared in the Southern Devil Sea, Tianyang's expression turned ugly. However, Tianyang did not give up. Southern Devil Sea? Tianyang nodded. His expression was extremely cold. Then, I hope those demonic bastards in the Southern Devil Sea will not stand in my way. In the next moment, Tianyang rose into the air and kept the vast expanse Holy Spirit and Yun Xinyuan. Chapter 13:20. Sand and dust danced in the air as silver lightning flashed. The terrifying power of Wu Zun's peak to the peak of the half-saint exploded in this small space. Roar! A furious roar sounded. In the next moment, countless sharp claws glowed as they ruthlessly attacked the peak Wu Zun. Oh no! Protect the young master. At this moment, the peak half-saint roared and instantly pounced on the claw print. However, he was sent flying by the claw print. How could this be? Even though the claw had been obliterated by this attack, the old man at the peak of the half-saint realm was still shocked. This Dark Moon demonic wolf was about to be killed by its companions. This should be its final attack. How could it have sent him flying? Even the Dark Moon demonic wolf at its peak was not this powerful. At this moment, the experts surrounding the Dark Moon demonic wolf screamed as they were sent flying by the giant wolf in the storm. There were many wounds on the giant wolf's body that were bleeding profusely. However, there was a strange pattern on the Dark Moon demonic wolf's forehead that was shining with a bloody light. This is the blood demon pattern? How could this Dark Moon demonic wolf have the blood of the blood demon? So this beast has actually evolved. The peak half-saint looked terrified as he took a few steps back and roared. This Dark Moon demonic wolf was a terrifying demonic beast that was infinitely close to the saint realm. They had chased it for half a month before they managed to severely injure it. It was only on this day that he made his move and decided to kill him completely. Who would have thought that the Dark Moon demonic wolf would evolve when it was on the verge of death? It was already infinitely close to the saint realm. What would it be if it evolved? It was definitely in the saint realm. The strongest person in this group was only a peak half-saint. In front of a saint realm expert, they were like ants that could not resist at all. At this moment, a cold snort slowly sounded. Hearing this, the peak half-saint and the young Master Wu Zun who had been rescued were stunned. Where did this voice come from? They had checked the area and found that there was no one within a radius of 1,000 miles. When did this guy appear? There are a few people here who are about to die. We should be able to get some information from them. Then, another cold voice sounded. Immediately after, a hand plunged into the storm caused by the Dark Moon demon wolf's evolution. Roar! Seeing this, the Dark Moon demon wolf angrily roared. It was at the critical moment of its evolution, and it didn't know where it came from, but it actually wanted to interrupt it. In an instant, numerous wind blades burst out and charged towards the owner of that hand. A smile appeared on the peak half-saint's face when he saw this. He didn't care who the owner of this hand was. As long as it could tie down the Dark Moon demon wolf, it was enough. Now, he could bring the young lord away. As for those initial rank and intermediate rank half-saints, they could be used as cannon fodder. In the next moment, the peak half-saint took young Master Wu Zun and fled. Did I allow you to leave? At this moment, another cold snort sounded. Suddenly, the peak half-step saint felt as if his entire body was being stared at by an incomparably terrifying existence. His hair stood on end, and his entire body was confined in place. Then, the peak half-step saint stiffly turned his head away. A figure took a step forward and tore with both hands. The terrifying storm was instantly torn apart. The wind blades that the Dark Moon demon wolf bombarded on that person didn't seem to have any effect. Instead, that person took another step forward and tore with both hands again. He directly tore the Dark Moon demon wolf into two halves. Blood spurted out wildly, but that person didn't care at all. A layer of true energy shield blocked the blood. At the same time, he released his space bag and put the Dark Moon demon wolf's corpse into it. Gulp! The peak half-step saint couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. He didn't sense any fluctuation of true energy at all. In other words, the monster in front of him had used only his physical strength to tear apart a terrifying existence, like the Dark Moon Demon Wolf. Instantly, the peak half-step saint didn't dare to move. He was afraid that the ruthless person in front of him would tear him apart as well. Let me ask you, is this the Southern Devil territory? At this moment, the ruthless person spoke. His emotionless eyes stared at the peak half-step saint. Gulp! The peak half-step saint swallowed a mouthful of saliva again and said in a trembling voice, "Yes, this is the northern part of the Southern Devil territory. I'm the Skydark Demon Sex." Whoosh! A sharp ray of light brushed past the peak half-step saint's neck. The sharp aura in the surroundings directly scraped the peak half-step saint's neck, causing streaks of blood to appear. The peak half-step saint was instantly scared out of his wits. "I'm just asking you if this is the Southern Devil territory. Why are you replying to me?" Ruthless said indifferently. Hearing this, the peak half-step saint instantly understood. This guy was definitely a Saint Realm demonic cultivator who had escaped to the Southern Devil territory from who knows where. This kind of person was most likely a desperado who didn't care about anything. He was a complete madman. "Then, tell me, who are you and what are you doing?" Ruthless said. Hearing this, the peak half-step saint heaved a sigh of relief. "I'm the peak half-step saint of the Skydark Demon Sect. I'm also the Grand Elder, Li Mingtang. I was hunting this Dark Moon demonic wolf that was about to evolve into a saint realm. It almost evolved into a saint realm." "How?" The peak half-step saint was just about to express his gratitude when the wound on his neck stung. Instantly, he shut up. He didn't want to lose his head because of one more sentence. "Okay." Ruthless nodded and waved his hand. A figure in a loose black robe with a face covered by a black veil appeared. It was impossible to tell whether the figure was male or female. Li Mingtang's eyes widened immediately. A living person? A space bag shouldn't be able to contain a person. It was dead silent inside. Even a blade of grass would die if it was put inside, let alone a living person. "Yuan Xian, check if he's right," Ruthless said. Vicious said. Hearing this, the person named Yuan Xian nodded. Li Mingtang instantly felt two sharp gazes sweeping back and forth on his body. "Master, the Skydark Demon Sect does exist in the Southern Devil territory. However, they're not strong. It doesn't matter if he's strong or not. It's good that he's not strong." Then, he looked at Li Mingtang and said, "You've been in the Southern Devil Kingdom for so many years. You should know why I know about your sect, right?" Hearing this, Li Mingtang felt like crying. How could he not know? This kind of demon cultivator who was like a fugitive came to the Southern Devil territory and encountered a force. It was very likely that he would occupy that force. "I hope this Ruthless isn't too strong. Master, you must hold on." Then, Li Mingtang looked at the Dark Moon demonic wolf not far away. The blood hadn't dried yet. He could only nod. "Li Mingtang knows. But before that, may I know your name?" Li Mingtang asked. Hearing this, Ruthless chuckled and raised his head, revealing his eyes that seemed to be burning with flames. Chapter 1321. Tianyang had his own considerations for changing his name to Su Tianshao. After all, even if the Xianyuan family did not pursue him, they would have announced his name to the world. Tianyang had wiped out the entire Xianyuan family, except for Xianyuan Kongming and old ancestor Xianyuan. How could Xianyuan Kongming not hate Tianyang? Now that old ancestor Xianyuan was there, Xianyuan Kongming was not afraid at all. It was possible for him to directly issue a wanted order for the whole world. Moreover, it was very likely that he would dig out the name Yang Tian. Therefore, Tianyang simply gave himself the name Su Tianshao, which he made up in the Demon Star. At the same time, he also used the powerful strength of the physical sanctification body to make slight adjustments to his appearance. His facial features became more mature, and at the same time, he changed a little. He was no longer so handsome, and the overall feeling was more vicissitudes. His height was adjusted from about 1.8 meters to 2 meters. He was tall and burly, and his face was older than a young man, but not middle-aged. Overall, he looked like a completely different person from Tianyang. Yun Xianyuan also changed her name to Yuan Xian, and her face was adjusted to the appearance of an ordinary delicate girl. However, in other aspects, Yin Xinyuan did not have a physical sanctification body, nor did she cultivate any related martial techniques, so she could not change her appearance. Therefore, she always wore a loose black robe and a black veil. In any case, there were too many people like this in the southern Devil Land, and they were completely inconspicuous. In fact, Tianyang's caution was useful. After Tianyang escaped, Xianyuan Kongming immediately issued a wanted order for the whole world. Tianyang and Yun Xianyuan were both on it, and there was even a vague projection of the vast expanse Holy Spirit. The reward was ridiculously high. If one could kill Tianyang, he could choose a martial technique or sacred weapon from the Xianyuan family's treasure vault. If one found Tianyang's trace and reported it, he could get one of the designated martial techniques below the peak of the sacred martial arts. If one killed Yin Xianyuan, he could get one of the sacred weapons. He discovered that Yun Xianyuan could also choose one of the designated martial techniques under the peak sacred artifact. Xianyuan Qingming and Tian Hao were also wanted. If he could kill both Tianyang and Yin Xianyuan, not only would the reward be doubled, he could even become a guest elder of a Xianyuan family. Even a great sage would not be able to resist the temptation of such a thing. The current Tianyang only had the combat strength of an ordinary high-level saint. If a great saint were to make a move, he would have to retreat. Su Tian Shao. Hearing that, Li Mingtang was struck dumb for a second, but wasn't very surprised. According to his deduction, this Su Tian Shao was definitely a fake name. The way she addressed her servant, Yuan Xian, was most likely a lie. No wonder Su Tian Shao placed the black-robed man in his spatial bag. It turned out that he was a servant. However, to the people of the Southern Devil's Sea, a fake name was not important. They only needed a name. Then, Lord Su, are you going to, at this moment, Li Mingtang said with trepidation, to be able to escape the pursuit of a sect and come to the Southern Devil's ghost domain alone, or rather, two people. All of them were extremely terrifying lunatics. Li Mingtang was really afraid that Tianyang would kill him if he was in a bad mood. On the side, the peak young master Wu Zun's expression did not change at all. He looked up and down at Tianyang with curious eyes. Where is the heavenly underworld demon sect? Take me there, Tianyang said arrogantly, changing his previous image. Hearing that, Li Mingtang immediately complained at his heart. He really touched a sore spot. If he took this guy back, the heavenly underworld demon sect would be occupied. At that time, he would not have a good ending. If he didn't take him back, he was afraid that he would be killed by Tianyang now. Even if Su Tian Shao failed and was killed by the sect master of the heavenly underworld demon sect, Li Mingtang's fate would be the same. This was simply a question of death. However, Li Mingtang, as well as everyone else on the scene, had no choice at all. He could only sigh and say, "We have been chasing this dark moon demonic wolf for more than half a month. Now, we are very far away from the heavenly underworld demon sect. If we go all out, it will take a lot of time." However, Li Mingtang's first two sentences were met with indifferent eyes by Tianyang. Li Mingtang immediately shut up. He was only more than 8,000 years old and was still at his peak. He was not willing to lose his life because of nonsense. The heavenly underworld demon sect is in the northeast, about 8 million miles away from here. Li Mingtang lowered his head and said. Hearing that, Tianyang nodded. 8 million miles, that wasn't too far. One of the important reasons why Yin Xianyuan ran 10 million miles for 3 days and 3 nights was that she went back and forth countless times just to avoid possible pursuit. Moreover, she was carrying Tianyang and Ling Yuhan at that time. The speed of the mysterious beauty-ing body could not burst out at all. Now, although Tianyang's combat strength was far from his peak, his speed was not much slower than that of his peak. In just a few hours, they had arrived at 8 million miles. Then, where is the dark moon demonic wolf? Where is my dark moon demonic wolf? A cold light, accompanied by a dissatisfied shout, came straight at Tianyang. Li Mingtang's expression changed greatly, but Tianyang was very calm. He reached out his hand and easily caught the cold light. It was a small hidden weapon about 3 inches long. At this time, the owner of the dissatisfied shout was stunned. The next moment, he stepped out. Yellow sand splashed all over the sky. Where did you come from? You can actually take my Sun Xiaochuan's concealed weapon? Following that, an extremely fat and bald man walked out. Seeing that, Tianyang raised his eyebrows slightly. Generally speaking, there were very few cultivators who were ugly. The worst ones were burly. After all, with so much spiritual qi of heaven and earth, it was difficult for them to be ugly. However, this man was the first ugly person that Tianyang had seen since his rebirth. I, Brother Sun, will give you face. Kneel down and worship Brother Sun as your teacher. From now on, you will have someone to protect you in the Southern Demon Sea. How about it? The fat man, Sun Xiaochuan, laughed. Hearing that, Tianyang's expression did not change. He crossed his fingers, and the hidden weapon turned into flying ashes. However, Tianyang noticed that there seemed to be poison in the hidden weapon. If it were another person, he would have been poisoned to death. Seeing that, Sun Xiaochuan's expression changed. His squinted eyes, which were squeezed by his fat, suddenly revealed fierce light. What do you mean? How do you not give face to me, Sun Xiaochuan? Besides, where is the dark moon demonic wolf that I have been eyeing for 3 days? Did you catch this guy? Sun Xiaochuan's tone was commanding as he angrily asked Tianyang. Hearing that, Li Mingtang seemed to have thought of something. His expression changed greatly, and he hurriedly said, Lord Su, this Sun Xiaochuan is not to be trifled with. Li Mingtang was afraid that Tianyang would lose his temper and directly kill Sun Xiaochuan. This Sun Xiaochuan is the disciple of the ancestor of the Crazy Beast Pavilion, one of the top forces in the northern cities of the Southern Demon Sea. Even the lord of the heavenly underworld demon sect does not dare to provoke the Crazy Beast Pavilion. Lord Su, please don't let your emotions affect your decisions. Li Mingtang said, although he said that he was also dissatisfied in his heart. They had been hunting the dark moon demonic wolf for half a month. Sun Xiaochuan clearly came across it and wanted to take it for himself. That was why he came up with an excuse. After all, Sun Xiaochuan was the disciple of the ancestor of the Crazy Beast Pavilion. He was the existence that could do whatever he wanted in the northern part of the Southern Demon Sea. The Crazy Beast Pavilion? Hearing that, Tianyang's mouth curved into a slight smile. That's good. Hearing that, Li Mingtang breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, Tianyang snapped his fingers. A flame suddenly appeared on Sun Xiaochuan's body. In the next moment, Sun Xiaochuan's whole body, together with his fat, was burned to ashes by the true flame of destruction. Chapter 1322. Even though Tianyang was seriously injured, the power of the true flames of destruction did not weaken much. On the contrary, because Tianyang's true essence had broken through to the intermediate level of the Saint Realm, the power of the true flames of destruction that Tianyang could unleash was much stronger than before. Sun Xiaochuan was only an intermediate level half-saint. How could he resist Tianyang's true flames of destruction? Seeing this, Li Mingtang's teeth began to chatter. Madman, this guy was definitely a madman. Everyone in the Southern Devil's northern region had heard of the Mad Beast Pavilion. With the way of taming beasts as its foundation, it had created many powerful figures who dominated the entire Southern Devil's northern region. Even though it was not as terrifying as it was at its peak, it was still tyrannical. Moreover, its ancestor was a great saint at the peak of the human grade. Su Tianxiao actually burned Sun Xiaochuan, a great saint's disciple, to death. If he was not a madman, then he must be extremely powerful. Although Tianyang had disguised himself, the strength he showed was only in the saint realm. Li Mingtang would only think that it was the latter if his brain was damaged. However, Tianyang did not care at all. He had met too many people like this. He did not even bother to listen to Sun Xiaochuan's arrogant self-introduction before killing him. After all, this was the Southern Demon Ghost Domain, and this Sun Xiaochuan was indeed planning to kill him. In that case, according to Su Tianxiao's character, he should have killed him directly. What is this? At this time, Tianyang said, Why aren't you taking me to the heavenly underworld demon sect? Yes. Hearing this, Li Mingtang could only nod with a pale face. Then, he left with Tianyang, Yun Xianyuan, and the people of the heavenly underworld demon sect who had been saved by Tianyang. As for Sun Xiaochuan, he could only hope that the Mad Beast Pavilion would not find out about it so soon. The young master, who was at the peak Wuzun realm, looked curiously at the unruly Tianyang with a deep look in his eyes. To be able to become the Devil Sect's young master, even if it was just a pleasant-sounding name, was definitely not simple. This Su Tianxiao, where does his confidence come from? The young master of the heavenly underworld demon sect muttered to himself. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the guts to investigate Tianyang's secret. Southern Devil region, Northern region. In fact, although the heavenly underworld demon sect wasn't very strong, it was still an extremely powerful force in the northern part of the Southern Ghost region, which wasn't very prosperous. After all, not every place was like the divine central continent and the spiritual state. The heavenly Nether Devil sect wasn't just a saint sect, it was even a saint sect that possessed a high-level saint realm expert. If it wasn't necessary, even a force with a sage wouldn't be willing to provoke the heavenly underworld devil sect. The heavenly underworld demon sect was located at the top of the mountain range. The mountain range that stretched for thousands of miles was the territory of the heavenly underworld demon sect. Tianyang and his group relied on Li Mingtang to directly step into the main peak of the mountain range, which was the core of the heavenly underworld demon sect. Young Master is back. The grand return of Tianyang and his group naturally surprised some people on the main peak of the heavenly underworld demon sect. However, there were also some malicious gazes that glanced at Li Mingtang and his group. Seeing this, Tianyang was a little speechless. The Southern Ghost region was indeed the Southern Ghost region. Even if they belonged to the same sect, they could still display their hostility and even killing intent in such a blatant manner. It was hard to imagine what would happen when it came to the competition for the position of the sect master. However, Tianyang didn't care. He only had one purpose in coming to the heavenly underworld demon sect: to ask for directions. Although Yin Xianyuan knew some things about the Southern Ghost region, she hadn't been here before. The Xianyuan family didn't pay much attention to the Southern Ghost region either. After all, it was easy to plant spies here. However, they might be killed and robbed in 2 days. Over time, the Xianyuan family stopped caring about the Southern Ghost region. After all, the Southern Ghost region and the Xianyuan family didn't have any disputes. However, this made Yun Xianyuan uncomfortable. She only knew a piece of information and a place name. She didn't know where it was. Xiaohu, you're finally back. At this moment, a tall and mighty middle-aged man walked out of the dark palace. He smiled when he saw the unscathed young master of the heavenly underworld demon sect. The young master of the heavenly underworld demon sect nodded and said something to the middle-aged man. Hearing this, the middle-aged man was stunned. Then, he looked at Tianyang and Yin Xianyuan. Yin Xuanyuan's aura couldn't be hidden from the middle-aged man. However, it was strange for Tianyang. No matter how he probed, Tianyang seemed to have a leakless golden body. He didn't leak any aura at all. He couldn't find anything even when he used the power of primordial spirit. Your sect master is using the power of primordial spirit to check on your guests? At this moment, Tianyang chuckled. He didn't give the middle-aged man any face at all. Hearing this, the middle-aged man's face froze. Then he smiled. It's just a habit. I'm excited to see an expert. How should I address you, sir? The middle-aged man smiled. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled contemptuously. Did he really think that his ears were for decoration? Su Tianxiao. There was nothing wrong with his words. However, his expression immediately angered an elder. What's with your attitude? The next moment, a brawny man with double axes rushed out. He looked at Tianyang with an unfriendly gaze and said coldly, "Is this how you speak to our sect master?" The brawny man with double axes said angrily. In an instant, the genuine core strength of a peak half-saint erupted. His aura was only a little bit weaker than Li Mingtang's. However, Tianyang's arrogant and contemptuous smile didn't change at all. Yin Xinyuan spoke. Is this how you speak to my master? Huh. Hearing this, the brawny man with double axes was stunned. Then his face became gloomy. You sneaky bitch. Are you qualified to speak here? The next moment, the power of thunder erupted from the double axes. Two huge axes the size of doors slammed toward Yun Xinyuan. Yun Xinyuan snorted disdainfully. Tianyang was seriously injured, but she wasn't. A trace of mysterious Yin power condensed in her palm. Then, Yun Xinyuan directly slapped out. Boom! Those bolts of lightning were no different from paper as they were directly blasted away. As for the two battle axes, cracks appeared on them as a result of the palm strike. As for the brawny man himself, he was directly sent flying by this palm. After doing all this, Yun Xinyuan slowly withdrew her hand. Her arrogant voice sounded. Chapter 1323. Young Master Su, do you think you can speak like that? Yun Xinyuan said arrogantly as she looked down at the people from the Heaven Underworld Demon Sect. Although her face was covered by a black veil and her expression couldn't be seen clearly, her words that were filled with mockery instantly infuriated everyone. What did you say, little girl? Sect leader, let me deal with these two who don't know their place. Before that person could finish speaking, Tianyang's calm gaze landed on him. Looking at Tianyang's eyes, which were as deep as an ancient well, the person was stunned and swallowed the words he wanted to say. Silence. At this moment, the middle-aged man let out a cold snort and suppressed everyone present. Then he smiled kindly and said to Tianyang, Young Master Su Tianshao, is it? I didn't discipline my subordinates well. Please forgive me, young Master Su. As the sect master of the Devil Sect, and the sect master of the Devil Sect of the Southern Devil Ghost region, the middle-aged man would not act on impulse like the previous person. Moreover, the strength that Yun Xinyuan displayed when she attacked previously also surprised the middle-aged man. Although her strength wasn't strong, her attack was clean and precise. Her ability to control her strength was not something an ordinary person could have. That was because the muscular man who had been blasted away, although he had been blasted several hundred meters away, aside from the impact when he landed, there wasn't a single injury on his body. Even a middle-aged man himself might not be able to do that. Therefore, he paid more attention to Yun Xinyuan. It's fine, Tianyang chuckled. Sect leader, you have to discipline her. My maid has a very bad temper. Although Tianyang didn't intend to fight with the Heaven Underworld Demon Sect, his tone was extremely arrogant. Hearing this, a few other half-saints wanted to flare up. However, due to the middle-aged man's dignity as a sect leader and the appearance of the burly man who was at the peak of the half-saint realm, they all shut their mouths. The middle-aged man was stunned. He didn't expect Tianyang to be so disrespectful. However, he quickly regained his composure. I'm Li Qingfeng. May I know why young Master Su is here? As Li Qingfeng spoke, he racked his brain and searched for any family related to Su. Su Tianshao was so arrogant in front of him, a high-level saint. He either had strength, a background, or was simply brainless. According to Li Mingtong's report, Su Tianshao could tear apart the dark moon demonic wolf that was about to evolve into a saint. So, there were only two possibilities, and Li Qingfeng couldn't afford to offend the first two. Su clan. There isn't a big family with the surname Su in the Southern Devil region. Could it be that he's an elder of some big power with the surname Su? Li Qingfeng's brows furrowed slightly. He really couldn't think of a Southern Devil with the surname Su. In the end, he could only give up. Since the maid did not deal much damage, Li Qingfeng could be forgiven. To be able to tear apart the dark moon demonic wolf, his strength was probably not much weaker than his own. If Tianyang didn't have the battle record of tearing apart the dark moon demon wolf, Li Qingfeng would have already killed Tianyang and Xinyuan Yin. How could the sect leader of the demonic sect tolerate the arrogance of a weakling? I've heard of your name for a long time. Of course, it's impossible. However, I heard that there's news about the 8th Order Sacred Flame in the Southern Ghost region. Tianyang asked with a chuckle. Hearing this, Li Qingfeng was stunned. Then, his expression changed slightly. Was this fellow also here for the level 8th spiritual fire? Since the news of the 8th Order spiritual flame was leaked 3 years ago, there had been a steady stream of people entering the northern region of the southern ghost region for the 8th Order spiritual flame. Now, it seemed that Su Tianxiao's purpose was the same. I'm sorry about the 8th Order spiritual flame. The heavenly underworld demonic sect is too small to touch it. Li Qingfeng smiled bitterly. He wasn't lying. A level 8 spiritual fire wasn't something a high-level sage expert like Li Qingfeng could get his hands on. It was reserved for the human grade great saints and even the spiritual grade great saints. The 8th Order sacred flame was still in the saint realm. It had the greatest effect on the saint realm, but it was also of great help to the human grade and spiritual grade great saints. Therefore, the 8th Order sacred flame wasn't something that belonged to the saint realm. Li Qingfeng wasn't stupid enough to provoke such a thing. Is that so? Tianyang frowned slightly, but wasn't too surprised. After all, the 8th Order sacred flame was rare. Even if the news was leaked, not everyone would know about it. Since the heavenly underworld demonic sect didn't know about it, there was no reason for the heavenly underworld demonic sect to stay. However, Father, there seems to be news about the 8th Order sacred flame being auctioned in the Chaos Demon City recently. At that moment, the young master of the peak martial honorable realm, who had been mute all this while, spoke. Hearing this, Li Qingfeng was stunned. Why are you bringing this up when this guy is about to leave? Indeed, when Tianyang heard this, he stopped in his tracks and turned to look at the peak martial honorable young master. As for the young master, he stared back at Tianyang without any fear. In the next moment, Tianyang looked at Li Qingfeng. Li Qingfeng felt like he was being stared at by a terrifying beast when Tianyang stared at him. His expression changed slightly. There is such a thing. I was too busy and didn't think about it. Li Qingfeng said with a smile. Hearing this, Tianyang's lips also curled into a smile. It seemed that the heavenly underworld demon sect was still hiding something. However, Tianyang didn't care. It didn't matter if they were hiding something or not. He would find out eventually. So, what's your name? Tianyang asked. Young Master Wu Zun knew that he was going to leave, but he still asked. Interesting. Li Qingchuan, young Master Wu Zun said, there will be an auction in the Chaos Demon City recently. They want to auction the 8th Order sacred flame. I think young Master Su will be interested. Li Qingchuan said. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded slightly. Then what do you want? If young Master Su wants to go to the Chaos Demon City, please take me with you. Li Qingchuan said. Tianyang's expression didn't change. Why? I know where the Chaos Demon City is. Moreover, your heavenly underworld demon sect has nothing to do with me. If you insist on it, you still owe me a life-saving favor. Li Qingchuan immediately understood that Tianyang wasn't rejecting him. He just wanted to know the value of bringing him along. Not only am I familiar with the Chaos Demon City, but I also know the location of a secret treasure near the Chaos Demon City. Is that okay? Li Qingchuan asked. Li Qingfeng was still puzzled. Okay. Anyway, there are only so many things in the Southern Devil and Northern region. It doesn't matter if there's one more burden or one less. Sect Master Li, what do you think? Tianyang smiled contemptuously and agreed to Li Qingchuan's request. Then, he looked at Li Qingfeng. Li Qingfeng, on the other hand, was stunned for a moment before revealing a bitter smile. He didn't know what Li Qingchuan was thinking, so he could only agree. Chapter 1324. Chaos Demon City, Crazed Beast Pavilion. Previously, Li Mingtang had mentioned that the Crazed Beast Pavilion dominated the northern city. This was Chaos Demon City. His soul lamp went out. Xiaochuan's soul lamp went out in just 4 or 5 days. In the Crazed Beast Pavilion, an old man stared at the soul lamp in front of him in disbelief. Soul lamps were treasured weapons formed by a person's soul power. They were similar to the Xianyuan family's spirit lamp. If one lived, the lamp would be lit. If one died, the lamp would be extinguished. Ever since Sun Xiaochuan was chosen by the Crazed Beast Pavilion's ancestor and became his only direct disciple, he had never seen his soul lamp weak, let alone extinguish it. Now, how many days had it been since he left Chaos Demon City to find a new beast? His soul lamp went out. He was dead. A mouthful of withered, yellow, and broken teeth clenched tightly. The old man's face was extremely ugly. Xiaochuan, this is the first time you went out alone to hunt for a beast. You were actually killed. Even if you don't give face to the monk, you still have to give face to the crazed beast pavilion in the northern part of the southern devil region. The old man's teeth chattered. With his back to the crowd, he let out a burst of angry roars. Go investigate. Find out which bastard dared to make a move on Xiaochuan. Yes. Immediately, the group of Wu Zun and half-saints below knelt on one knee and answered loudly. The crazed beast pavilion's power in the southern devil region was no less than the medicine god sect's power in the eastern sky divine region. In the northern part of the southern devil region, the crazed beast pavilion was equivalent to the Xianyuan family in the Xintian Great World. They were the rulers of the northern part of the southern devil region. Big brother, he's just a disciple. His talent isn't particularly strong. At most, he has some beast-taming talent. Why do you have to do this? At this moment, an old man with white eyebrows who looked similar to the old man walked out from the shadows. You don't understand. The old man growled. Xiaochuani, forget it. However, I agree with you on one point. Another person said faintly. Murderous intent burst out from his eyes. How dare he go against the crazed beast pavilion? He must die. In the next moment, the old man flicked his sleeve and left. These two people were the top experts in Chaos Demon City, the two ancestors of the crazy beast pavilion. They were the infamous lion and tiger saints. At this moment, Tianyang stayed in the heavenly underworld demon sect for a short while. After learning more about the southern ghost realm, he embarked on the journey to the Chaos Demon City. There were a total of 5 realms in the southern devil region: east, west, north, south, and central region. Among them, the east region was the strongest, the central region was the weakest, and the north region was on par with the central region. It wasn't weak, but it wasn't strong either. Otherwise, the two saints of the Mad Beast Pavilion wouldn't be qualified to dominate a part of the 5 great provinces of the profound Sky Great World. Young Master Su, why do you want an 8th Order Holy Flame so badly? Tianyang, Yun Xinyuan, and Li Qingchuan were on their way to Chaos Demon City. Li Qingchuan suddenly spoke. Tianyang didn't reply, but Li Qingchuan seemed to be talking to himself. Judging from young Master Su's appearance, he shouldn't be old. He should be a good genius to be able to reach the Saint Realm. But young Master Su released the power of his primordial spirit to inquire for information. This doesn't seem like an aristocratic family's disciple who completely disdains the heavenly underworld demon sect. But young Master Su's disdain and contempt for the heavenly underworld demon sect doesn't seem to be fake. Does this mean that young Master Su is actually going to understand the southern ghost realm? Li Qingchuan smiled. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression didn't change, but his heart was slightly moved. In other words, young Master Su isn't actually a disciple of a great force in the southern devil region. He must be from the outer realms. There must be a great reason for him to come all the way to the southern devil region from the outer realms. Perhaps this reason is a life and death crisis. Li Qingchuan said. Hearing this, Tianyang's face was indifferent, but he was a little surprised. This kid could actually guess so much with just a little information. It seemed that the people of the southern devil region were all shrewd. It wasn't a lie. Or perhaps, if you say another word of nonsense, I'll break your neck. With Li Qingfeng's strength, he doesn't have the ability to cause trouble for me, Tianyang said indifferently. Hearing this, Li Qingchuan immediately shrunk his neck and shut up. He had been intelligent since he was a child, and he also had a physique that was extremely sensitive to the power of his primordial spirit. However, because of this, he wasn't very strong in martial arts. Originally, he wanted to show off in front of Tianyang, but in the end, Tianyang wanted to kill him as soon as he opened his mouth, so he was directly speechless. That city is the Chaos Demon City, right? Tianyang suddenly said. Hearing this, Li Qingchuan was stunned and said without hesitation, The Chaos Demon City is at least 3 or 4 days away from the heavenly underworld mountain. Even if we rush at full speed, it will take 2 or 3 days. We only set off for 10 hours. How can it be so easy? When he looked up, he was instantly dumbfounded. A black city, like a giant beast, was sitting between the heavens and the earth. The scale had completely destroyed the entire heavenly underworld demon sect. In the center of the Chaos Demon City, Li Qingchuan recognized the towering tower. Black Demon Tower! Is this really the Chaos Demon City? It's fine as long as it is, Tianyang said. The next moment his figure flashed, and he arrived in the Chaos Demon City. Is master speed something you can imagine? Yin Xinyuan sneered. He was also very unhappy with this guy who forced himself to follow them. Although he didn't know why Li Qingchuan forced himself to follow them, it was definitely not a good thing. How can a stage expert be so fast? Even if my father goes all out, it will take 16 to 18 hours. And you're bringing me? Li Qingchuan hurriedly refuted. The next moment, looking at the city getting closer and closer in front of him, Li Qingchuan panicked. Wait a minute. Flying is not allowed in the Chaos Demon City. Boom! In the next moment, Tianyang blasted a big hole in the forbidden space array and flew in openly. He was now the arrogant and insufferably arrogant young Master Su Tianxiao. How could he obediently listen to the rules of the Chaos Demon City? Moreover, the strongest in the Chaos Demon City were the 2 sages. Why would he follow the rules? In the martial Dao world, the fist was the biggest. This southern demon sea would only magnify this law to the limit. In an instant, Tianyang arrived in the Chaos Demon City. The soldiers guarding the city only heard the loud sound of the forbidden space array being broken. They didn't see Tianyang and the other 2 rushing in at all. Okay, now tell me about the auction. At this moment, Tianyang spoke. Hearing this, Li Qingchuan was taken aback. There are still 3 to 5 days before the auction. We should find a place to stay first. The heavenly underworld demon sect has a stronghold in the Chaos Demon City. Stay? Hearing this, Tianyang snorted coldly. Who told you that I'm going to participate in the auction? Chapter 1325. Kill. Kill our way up. Li Qingchuan was stunned. In the next moment, a terrifying killing intent was released from Tianyang's body. This murderous intent wasn't targeted at anyone. Furthermore, it had been restrained by heavenly sun around him. However, Li Qingchuan could clearly feel it because they were very close. It was a terrifying killing intent that seemed to want to tear all living things to shreds. Li Qingchuan was shocked. Just what kind of blood feud could cause such a murderous intent to be condensed? Even so, Li Qingchuan could only smile bitterly and shake his head. Although young Master Su is powerful, he is still far from the force that received the information. Even if the force behind young Master Su is very strong, it is impossible to deal with that force. Did I ask you to say so much nonsense? Tianyang said coldly. You only have 2 choices. Tell me your name or die. Tianyang would not show any mercy to Li Qingchuan just because they knew each other. Now, in the entire mysterious sky great world, anyone who stood in the way of Tianyang saving Ling Yuhan was a person he had to kill. Just as Tianyang finished speaking, a terrifying wave of killing intent viciously hit Li Qingchuan's body. Li Qingchuan's expression also changed. Even though the power of his Yuan spirit was different from that of an ordinary person, it was as if he was just a leaf in a tsunami in front of Tianyang's terrifying killing intent. He could be overturned and destroyed by the raging winds and waves. Beast. Wild Beast Pavilion. Li Qingchuan had no choice but to speak. Tianyang was stunned when he heard this. Wild Beast Pavilion? Wasn't that the force that Sun Xiaochuan, whom he had just killed, belonged to? Interesting. Tianyang's lips curled into a smile. If that was the case, there was no need to worry too much about robbing. Although there was no need for any reason to kill in the Southern Devil region, Tianyang still had a bottom line. Where did the 3 of you come from? At that moment, an unruly voice was heard. Tianyang's expression did not change as he turned his head indifferently. The killing intent in his body was perfectly concealed. The three of you are sneaking around the entrance of my crazy beast pavilion. Speak, what are you up to? A sixth-stage Wu Zun with a spear in his hand coldly shouted. Upon hearing this, Tianyang was startled. So the place he landed without even thinking was this mad beast pavilion? However, Tianyang completely ignored this person, and Li Qingchuan and Yun Xinyuan naturally wouldn't open their mouths to respond to a mere 6th-level cultivator like Wu Zun. As such, no one cared about the rank 6 martial, honorable realm's cold roar. How dare you ignore me? Wu Zun's expression instantly turned ugly. Although Wu Zun was in the 6th stage of the inner realm and was not considered a powerhouse in the Chaos Demon City, he was still a guard of the crazy beast pavilion. Which of the countless peak-level Wu Zun he had met wasn't polite. Not to mention, this was the entrance of the crazy beast pavilion. He actually dared to ignore him in his own territory? Their actions are suspicious and sneaky. I'm afraid they want a rebel. At that moment, the 6th stage Wu Zun roared, "Brothers! Enemies!" In the next moment, several 6th-stage Wu Zun and a 7th-stage Wu Zun suddenly appeared at the entrance of the crazy beast pavilion. Each of them held a spear in their hands and had an aggressive aura. Their eyes were filled with undisguised greed. Old Third, which fat sheep are we going to slaughter this time? Oh, there are actually 3 this time? Maybe we can split the loot and have some fun in the Linglong Pavilion. Old Third, should we take them down now, or do we have them charged with a crime? Several Wu Zun laughed and joked. They had used this method of forcefully assigning a crime and then using the crazy beast pavilion's power to pressure passersby to pay for their lives. They had used this method countless times. When they heard Old Third's call, they naturally flew over immediately. Charge them with a crime. It's just a sentence anyway. The first 6th-stage Wu Zun sneered. These 3 are suspicious. They are discussing in a low voice at the entrance of the crazy beast pavilion. We suspect that they are bandits who want to destroy the dignity of the crazy beast pavilion. Therefore, the crazy beast pavilion's guards subdue them. Okay. In an instant, everyone shouted and charged toward Tianyang's group with spears in their hands. It wasn't that there were no passersby on the side. However, when they saw the crazy beast pavilion's guards, who would dare to stay? The crazy beast pavilion's guards have been tyrannical and extorting people for a long time. With the crazy beast pavilion's power, who would dare to go against them? When they saw Tianyang's group being attacked without saying a word, the crowd could only sigh in pity. Of course, there were also many who rejoiced in their misfortune. These 3 are so cheap. Why do they have to say it at the entrance of the crazy beast pavilion? This is great. When the crazy beast pavilion's guards are done robbing, it will be our turn. In the next moment, spear lights shot toward Tianyang in unison. How dare you ignore me? Now that I've dealt with you, what else do you dare to say? The first 6th-stage Wu Zun sneered. This time, I'll teach you a lesson. This Southern Devil Ghost horde has the biggest fist. In the future, don't pretend to be weak in front of strong. In an instant, spear lights bloomed and closed in on Tianyang's group. Li Qingchuan's face turned pale the moment the crazy beast pavilion's guards appeared. He had only killed Sun Xiaochuan because Sun Xiaochuan was surrounded by his own people. This was the entrance of the crazy beast pavilion. Even if Tianyang had the strength to kill these Wu Zun and infuriate the crazy beast pavilion, they would still die in the end. You're right. The Southern Devil Ghost horde has the biggest fist. At this moment, Tianyang smiled and lightly stepped on the ground with his right foot. In an instant, a seismic wave visible to the naked eye rushed towards the few people who were rushing over. In the next moment, the faces of those people instantly became distorted. The spear lights also dissipated at this moment, and then a few of them were blasted apart by the seismic waves generated by Tianyang's stomp. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere and fell to the ground, making patter sounds. Tianyang looked indifferent as he walked toward the crazy beast pavilion. Hey, you guards, get ready. The Ancestor has issued a mission to find the person who killed the Ancestor's direct disciple, Sun Xiaochuan. This is a sensor crystal. As long as you have young Master Xiaochuan's aura, this crystal will glow. No matter who it is, capture him and bring him back to the Crazy Beast Pavilion for interrogation. A seemingly majestic Peak Wu-Zun stood at the entrance of the Crazy Beast Pavilion and shouted. However, in the next moment, the Peak Wu-Zun was stunned. The crystal in his hand glowed crazily. Moreover, it was getting hotter and hotter. The Peak Wu-Zun was startled and looked in front of him. Chapter 1326. What was going on? The manager at the Peak of Wu-Zun was completely stunned. The first thing that shocked him wasn't the red and hot crystal in his hand. Instead, it was the corpses on the ground. The Peak Marshal Honorable Deacon knew every single one of them. After all, they had often plundered the passers-by and paid the Peak Marshal Honorable Deacon a lot. But now, those familiar faces, the guards who had brought him countless Reiki treasures, had turned into a pile of flesh and blood on the ground. Who? Who dares to kill the guards of the Crazy Beast Pavilion in front of us? The manager at the Peak of Wu-Zun roared and looked at Tianyang. His expression instantly turned ferocious. Was it you? The next moment, the manager at the Peak of Wu-Zun's figure flashed, and he charged at Tianyang. Seeing this, Tianyang's expression didn't change. He raised his right hand. Then, just as the manager at the Peak of Wu-Zun was about to hit him, he smashed down with force. Boom! The manager at the Peak of Wu-Zun immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. His spine had been broken. His entire body was powerless as he was smashed into the ground by Tianyang. However, the vitality of the Peak of Wu-Zun was still extremely tenacious. Even though his spine had been broken, the manager at the Peak of Wu-Zun didn't die. Instead, he roared, Sun Xiaochuan's murderer is here. The entire Crazy Beast Pavilion was alarmed. For the sake of this personal disciple of the ancestor, the entire Crazy Beast Pavilion had been called over by the ancestor to give them a good scolding. In their hearts, they were filled with endless resentment towards Tianyang, who had killed Sun Xiaochuan. Now that this sudden roar had appeared, regardless of whether it was true or not, they could finally vent their anger. In an instant, dozens of Peak Wu-Zun, beginner-level half-saint, and intermediate-level half-saint rushed out of the Crazy Beast Pavilion. Beast! Devouring Demon. Beast! 10,000 miles Black Tortoise. Come out! Dark Moon Demon Wolf. In the blink of an eye, dozens of experts, dozens of magical beasts of all shapes and sizes, charged out. Looking at Tianyang, he was full of confidence. No matter who this guy was, they would use his blood to wash away their suffocation. Seeing this, Tianyang's lips curled into a strange arc. 13 peak stage Wu-Zun, 7 beginner-level half-saints, 3 middle-level half-saints, and magic beasts of similar strength. Is this the confidence of the Mad Beast Pavilion? In the next moment, Tianyang raised his hand, and a flame burned fiercely in his hand. Then his palm faced the ground, and a loud bang erupted. Boom! In an instant, the dozens of Mad Beast Pavilion experts and their magical beasts were all set ablaze by the true flames of destruction. Tianyang, on the other hand, was calm and composed. He took Yun Xianyuan and walked past the people of the Crazed Beast Pavilion, who were struggling against the true flames of destruction, and stepped into the Crazed Beast Pavilion. A bunch of trash. Recalling Su Tianxiao's character, Tianyang curled the corner of his mouth and mocked. At this time, Li Qingchuan was completely dumbfounded. To a Saint Realm expert, these peak stage Wu-Zun and half-saints were nothing more than food. However, they were all experts who had mastered the way of beast taming. These people and magic beasts added up to almost 50 people. Even if Li Qingfeng were here, he would not be able to kill them all in one move. However, Tianyang had done it. However, this was not what shocked him the most. Tianyang was at the entrance of the Crazed Beast Pavilion, and he had instantly killed the disciples, attendants, and guards of the Crazed Beast Pavilion. Who dares to cause trouble in my Crazed Beast Pavilion? Just as Tianyang stepped into the Crazed Beast Pavilion, a thunderous voice resounded from all directions. Then, a middle-aged man with flames burning all over his body walked out of the Crazed Beast Pavilion. He looked like a flaming demon god. The aura on his body was Saint Realm, and he was a middle-level Saint Realm expert. It's actually a saint. The middle-aged man was surprised. However, in the next moment, his face sank when he saw the miserable scene outside the door. Although Tianyong had casually released the true flames of destruction, it was not enough to burn so many people alive. Even the peak stage attendant Wu Zun, whose spine was broken, did not suffer any fatal injuries. However, those beasts were definitely not safe. Even if those people survived, they would be seriously injured. It was unknown whether they could take another step forward in the future. Of course, as the vice pavilion master of the crazed beast pavilion, the middle-aged man did not care about the group of half-saints Wu Zun. He cared about the reputation of the crazed beast pavilion. In front of the crazed beast pavilion, the pavilion master and patriarch were present. However, a guy who came out of nowhere had defeated dozens of people and beasts of the crazed beast pavilion. If he couldn't kill Heavenly Sun here, then the mad beast pavilion's reputation would be swept to the ground. Even a saint can't casually invade my crazed beast pavilion. Since you want to die so much, then go to hell. The vice pavilion master of the crazed beast pavilion coldly snorted. In the next moment, he waved his hand, and a flame instantly appeared beside him. To be precise, it was not a flame, but a fire spirit. It was the same type of existence as the fire spirit Tianyong had encountered in the ancestral dragon godland. However, this fire spirit was obviously much stronger than the one in the ancestral dragon godland. Kill them, the vice pavilion master of the crazed beast pavilion angrily shouted. In the next moment, the fire spirit suddenly burst out with a roar and charged toward Tianyong. Wherever it passed, even space was burned and distorted by the fire spirit. Coupled with the distortion of the air, it was as if the interior of the crazed beast pavilion had been completely thrown into chaos. The fire spirit waved its fist, and the power of the sacred path of flames erupted. It turned into a terrifying fist and ruthlessly blasted toward Tianyong. The fire spirit gathered the essence of flames between heaven and earth. It could be said that it was born with the sacred path of flames. Every member of the crazed beast pavilion was an expert in beast taming. This fire spirit was much stronger than the magma fire spirit that Tianyong had encountered, which only knew how to use its instincts. Not bad. Tianyong smiled slightly. Just as he was about to make a move, Yin Xuanyuan's body moved horizontally and appeared in front of Tianyong. There's no need for Master to make a move against such an opponent. In the next moment, the mystical beauty Yin body in Yin Xuanyuan's body activated. Following it, wisps of terrifying mystical Yin force burst out from his body. If the fire spirit relied on its own power of flames to distort space, the mystical beauty Yin body used the mystical Yin power to turn the entire space into a Yin-type purgatory. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the fire spirit was bombarded by the extremely terrifying mystical Yin power and dissipated. In the next moment, Yin Xinyuan attacked again. This time, his target was the middle-aged man. Who dares to make a move against the vice pavilion master? At this moment, a furious roar that sounded like a lion's roar resounded throughout the entire crazed beast pavilion. Following that, a sage's power directly defeated Yin Xuanyuan's attack. In the next moment, two figures appeared in the crazed beast pavilion. They were the two ancestors of the crazed beast pavilion. Chapter 13:27. The Lion and Tiger Sages. They were the two true overlords of Chaos Demon City. At the same time, they were the Mad Beast Pavilion's greatest reliance in dominating the Chaos Demon City. Old Ancestor, you're finally here. The Vice Pavilion Master of the Mad Beast Pavilion revealed an incomparably happy expression when he realized that he had not been frozen by that strange power. The Lion and Tiger Sages did not reply. Instead, they stared fixedly at Tianyong. On Tianyong's body, in addition to the few guards of the Mad Beast Pavilion that Tianyong had killed, the dozen or so peak stage Wu Zun that had been crippled, the dozen or so half-sages and demonic beasts, there was another aura. As time passed, the aura had become extremely faint. However, Lion Saint was the first to notice it. It was the aura of his personal disciple, Sun Xiaochuan. In an instant, the lion sage's eyes turned blood red. He was almost about to rush out and fight Tianyong to the death. On the other side, the tiger sage did not lose his mind like the lion sage. However, his expression was ugly and extremely furious. The guards had been slaughtered, and the disciples and deacons had been hung up and beaten. If they had not intervened, even the vice pavilion master would have been seriously injured. The Mad Beast Pavilion did not open a small world. Instead, they directly opened a headquarters in Chaos Demon City. Moreover, it was located in the central area of Chaos Demon City. Anything that happened in the Mad Beast Pavilion would immediately be known to everyone in Chaos Demon City. Today, the news of Tianyong directly killing the Mad Beast Pavilion had probably already spread to the outside world. It had spread to the entire northern part of the Southern Devil's domain. Regardless of whether the crazed Beast Pavilion killed the Heavenly Sun realm or not, the crazed Beast Pavilion had already lost all face. With your strength, you should know that it's impossible for you to defeat the entire Mad Beast Pavilion by yourself. I also don't believe that a few corrupt guards would be able to anger an existence that is at least a high-level Saint Realm expert and directly attack the Mad Beast Pavilion. So, what are you planning? The Tiger Sage asked with murderous intent in his eyes. Hearing this, Tianyong smiled gently. It's very simple. The Mad Beast Pavilion has information about an 8th Order sacred flame. Lion Saint and Tiger Saint were both stunned. News of an 8th Order sacred flame? This person was at least a high-level sage expert. So, he had attacked the entire crazy Beast Pavilion without any hesitation just for a piece of information. Is that so? Hearing this, Tiger Sage's expression changed slightly. It seems that you won't be able to achieve this goal. The Tiger Sage's expression gradually darkened. The aura of a pinnacle sage, which was the aura of a sage, erupted from the Lion Sage and Tiger Sage. If Tianyong had only killed a few guards, Tiger Sage might not have been willing to offend someone like the Tianyong and would have settled things peacefully. However, not only did Tianyong kill Sun Xiaochuan, but he also severely injured the disciple of the crazy Beast Pavilion. Moreover, Tiger Sage also knew that Tianyong was the one who killed Sun Xiaochuan. Then today, Tianyong must die. Boom! The Lion Sage and Tiger Sage attacked together. Terrifying waves of energy erupted, causing ripples to appear in the air. In the next moment, one from the front and one from the back, they attacked like a thunderbolt. Wild Lion Tyrant, Mountain Seal. Raging Tiger shocks the heavens. Two angry roars resounded throughout the entire crazy Beast Pavilion. The true yuan of a pinnacle sage continued to wreak havoc in the crazy Beast Pavilion. A seal and a palm technique simultaneously attacked Tianyong. Seeing this, the Vice Pavilion Master was so excited that he couldn't control himself. It had been 30 years. It had been 30 years since he had seen the Ancestor attack. Not to mention the crazy Beast Pavilion, but even in the entire Chaos Demon City, it was rare to see a sage expert attack. Now, the Ancestor that he respected the most had taken action to suppress the trash that dared to challenge the crazy Beast Pavilion's prestige. How could the Vice Pavilion Master not be excited? As for Tianyong, he sighed as he was attacked by the two of them. Although Tianyong hadn't seen the Xianyuan family's wanted list, it definitely included Tianyong's various methods. The Great Void Sword Embryo, Sky-Devouring Secret Technique, Space-Time Blink, Sky Firmament Sword, and 10,000 Mammoth Annihilation were basically unusable. Otherwise, how could these two sages block the Space-Time Blink Sword technique that could even injure an earthly great sage, Xianyuan Kongming? However, even if Tianyong couldn't use the killing moves that he was familiar with, it wouldn't be difficult for him to deal with two sages. Dragon King's Unrivaled Fist. The Dragon King roared as he circulated his dragon force. The Dragon King's might was unrivaled in this punch, as it fiercely bombarded the wild Lion Tyrant Mountain Seal. The true yuan of a mid-level sage and the physical strength of a sage perfectly fused into one. This punch directly exploded with the offensive power of a sage. Boom! In addition, Tianyang secretly circulated the undying divine flame and true destructive flames. Under this punch, the Lion Sage's attack was shattered. What? Seeing this, the Tiger Sage's expression changed drastically. The Lion Sage's attack had killed the strongest sage in Chaos Demon City and established the Wild Beast Pavilion's position as the overlord of the chaotic Demon City. How could it be broken by this mid-level sage? At this time, Tianyang used the dragon's subduing step, turned around quickly, and punched again. Divine Dragon Emperor Fist. Boom! This time, the Divine Dragon Emperor Fist didn't directly shatter the Tiger Sage's palm. However, it didn't cause any substantial damage to the Tiger Sage's palm either. The two retreated a few feet at the same time and stopped at the same time. The difference was that Tianyang's expression was extremely relaxed, while the Lion Sage and Tiger Sage's expressions were ugly. Damn it, this guy is actually so strong. The Lion Sage's expression was extremely ugly. Then, he exchanged a look with the Tiger Sage and nodded. Then, around Lion Saint, the souls of the Berserk Lions bloomed with divine light. Next to the Tiger Sage, the raging Tiger Spirit crashed into the Tiger Sage's forehead and became the mark of the Tiger Sage's forehead. Beast Spirit Possession. The Lion Sage and Tiger Sage roared. In the next moment, they exploded with terrifying speed and charged at Tianyang at the same time. Seeing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows slightly and revealed a trace of surprise. The Lion Sage and Tiger Sage were originally two of the most ordinary great sages. If not for the fact that Tianyang's primordial spirit had been exhausted and hadn't recovered until now, Tianyang would have been able to deal with the Lion Sage and Tiger Sage the same way he dealt with the Snow Sky Fox Tribe's Supreme Grand Elder. However, after fusing with the beast spirits, the Lion Sage and Tiger Sage's strength instantly rose to a new level. From ordinary great sages, they directly jumped to the level of Earth Dragon Sage and Sea Dragon Sage. Die! The Lion Sage and Tiger Sage roared at the same time. Their violent aura directly shattered the entire Mad Beast Pavilion. A pair of wild and domineering fists also came at Tianyang viciously. This punch seemed to shatter space, and even Tianyang's head was about to be shattered. What an interesting way of taming beasts. At this moment, Tianyang smiled slightly, and his hands instantly formed a seal. Wisps of primordial aura appeared within the seal. It's a pity weak. The moment the seal was formed, blood covered the sky. Chapter 1328. Weak. With a single word, a terrifying seal condensed from the power of the primordial wilderness blood was instantly formed. Moreover, two seals were formed at once. They blasted towards the Lion Sage and the Tiger Sage, respectively. Weak. Hearing this, the Lion Sage and the Tiger Sage, who had already displayed the beast's soul possession, were stunned for a moment. Then, their hearts surged with rage. This was the first time they had seen someone who dared to say that they were weak. Destroy! The Lion Sage roared. His fist seemed to contain the power of a wild lion. He blasted out a punch, which even caused a crack to appear in the space. As for the crazy beast pavilion, it had long been smashed into pieces by the aftermath of the battle between the three saints. As a result, the aftermath of the battle instantly erupted. Many of the houses in the surrounding area were overturned. Fortunately, those who could live in the center of Chaos Demon City were not easy to deal with. As early as the battle in the crazy beast pavilion had begun, these experts had all fled. At this time, the Lion Sage and the Tiger Sage clashed head-on with the primordial wilderness blood seal that Tianyang had blasted out. Boom! A terrifying sound rang out, and in an instant, extremely terrifying energy ripples spread out in all directions, as if they were tangible ripples. Some of the beginner saints could not help but be aghast when they felt the energy ripples. By the time they reacted, their internal organs had already been shaken by the energy ripples. As for the Sage-to-be and Wu Zun, they were even worse off. In order to prevent their internal organs from being damaged, they were directly sent flying by the energy ripples. However, even so, everyone was incomparably concerned about the battle in the crazy beast pavilion. Unfortunately, The situation in the Crazy Beast Pavilion was not as they had expected. Puff, puff. The sound of two people vomiting blood rang out. Two figures were sent flying in completely opposite directions. The famous Lion Sage and Tiger Sage in Chaos Demon City were actually no match for this seemingly unruly person. Two mysterious eels that no one could recognize directly shattered the attacks of the Lion Sage and Tiger Sage and sent them flying together. What a joke! Even if Tianyang was seriously injured, he was still in existence that could fight with an earthly great saint like Xianyuan Kongming in the past. Even if the power of his primordial spirit was severely injured, and only a tenth of his primordial spirit was left, his physical strength and true yuan were not something that two saints could shake. To deal with Tianyang now, a great saint, even a human-grade great sage, might not be able to succeed. Only a great sage like the Scarlet Dragon Sage, who is close to the peak of the spiritual grade, would have the confidence to take down the heavenly sun. Unfortunately, there were great saints in Chaos Demon City, but that was only because of their character. So, are you going or not? Tianyang reached out and waved his hand. The Lion Tiger Saints, who had been sent flying, were summoned back without any ability to resist. Even so, the Sage the Lion Sage. You want me to hand over the information on the Class 8 Holy Flame? He did not know who Sun Xiaochuan was to the Lion Saint. Until now, the Lion Saint was not willing to compromise at all. As for the Tiger Saint, he snorted coldly and maintained the same unyielding attitude as his elder brother. You're not handing it over. No problem. Seeing this, Tianyang chuckled. How could a saint give in so easily? This was also within Tianyang's expectations. However, if they would rather die than give in, they could deal with Tianyang. If that was the case, then those two saints might be dreaming too much. Boom! In an instant, another immemorial blood seal appeared behind Tianyang. This time, Tianyang had even integrated a trace of the chaos origin into the immemorial blood seal. The previous immemorial blood seal might have been able to defeat the Lion Sage and Tiger Sage, but might not have been able to make them kneel and seriously injure them. However, this primordial blood seal had fused with a trace of the primordial chaos origin source. Even if two great saints of the mortal grade came, they would have to kneel and beg for mercy. The Lion Sage and Tiger Sage's pupils shrank, and they sucked in a breath of cold air. Although Tianyang's various methods were powerful in their eyes, they were all mediocre skills. But now, this immemorial blood seal, it was absolutely capable of smashing his entire body into minced meat with a single strike. However, when they thought of their own personal disciple, Sun Xiaochuan, who had died in Tianyang's hands, they were furious. Lion Sage roared, "If you have the ability, then kill this old man. I'll grant you your wish." Tianyang smiled faintly. With a flick of his finger, the primordial blood seal shot out. Anyway, Tianyang had the method to search souls. At worst, he could use some torture to force Tiger Sage to tell him the truth. Tianyang really did not care about Lion Sage's life or death. Hold on. At this moment, a delicate voice rang out. Then, a dark green barrier appeared in front of Lion Sage. On the barrier, mysterious runes flowed. Finally, the entire barrier started to spin crazily. Boom! The immemorial blood seal violently bombarded the dark green barrier. Most of the impact was dissipated by the spinning barrier, and the immemorial blood seal directly shattered the barrier. However, it turned into light dust along with the dark green barrier. Tianyang raised his eyebrows. In Chaos Demon City, there was someone who could block his attack. In the next moment, a woman appeared in front of Lion Sage. She had long green hair that reached her waist. Her face was delicate, and her eyes were slender but did not stand out. She was wearing a tight-fitting black leather jacket, which perfectly outlined the curves of her voluptuous figure. Her every frown and smile seemed to carry a boundless charm, causing everyone's gazes to be completely fixed on her. However, some of the saints looked at this woman with a gaze that was not purely lust. In addition to the desire for that almost perfect body, there was also a deep fear. Demon Lady Linglong. Lion Sage finally saw the person who had blocked the fatal blow for him. However, his expression changed rapidly. He was not happy that he had been saved. Instead, he stared at Demon Lady Linglong and even took a few steps back. Tianyang's eyes narrowed slightly, and his face turned solemn. The aura on this woman was stronger than the Lion Sage and Tiger Sage of the Wild Beast Pavilion. She had already reached the human grade, Great Saint realm. What Tianyang was most afraid of was the faintly discernible dangerous aura that Demon Lady Linglong exuded. Even Xinyuan Kongming did not give him such a feeling. "Who are you?" Tianyang asked. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Anyone who stood in his way of obtaining the 8th Order Sacred Flame was someone he must kill. No matter how beautiful Demon Lady Linglong was, it was the same. Demon Lady Linglong was stunned when she heard this. Then, the corners of her mouth curved into a smile. "Is there anyone in Chaos Demon City who doesn't know me?" After that, Linglong blinked her eyes. Countless experts behind her were shaken by her actions. Behind Tianyang, Li Qingchuan's mouth was wide open, and his face was filled with disbelief. Demon Lady Linglong, since you don't know me, let me introduce myself." Demon Lady Linglong smiled charmingly and said, "My name is Demon Lady Linglong. It's not convenient for me to say my name. I belong to the Star Demon Trading Company, which will be auctioning the information of the 8th Order Sacred Flame in a few days." Demon Lady Linglong's seductive voice came out from her mouth. Instantly, the hearts of countless men behind Tianyang trembled. Her voice seemed to be able to arouse the primitive urges of men. It made them want to rush up and strip Demon Lady Linglong naked and have a good time. Tianyang did not doubt that if Demon Lady Linglong wanted the group of Wu Zun half-sages to court death, they would not hesitate. "So, do you want to die?" Chapter 1329. "So, you want to die?" Tianyang's expression was indifferent as he looked at Linglong. There was not the slightest bit of emotion in his eyes. "Those who stop me will die." It was that simple. Hearing this, Linglong was taken aback. She then covered her mouth with her right hand and laughed. "Hee, this sage state really likes to joke with me." Whoosh! An extremely sharp sword light instantly pierced through Linglong's hair, cutting off countless strands of her emerald green hair. At the same time, the sharp force left a red mark on Linglong's temple. If it had come any closer, it would have bled. Linglong's expression froze, and her eyes widened. "I rarely joke," Tianyang said indifferently. Since Linglong wanted to stop him from obtaining information about the rank 8 Sacred Flame, he could only kill her. As for her appearance, what did it have to do with him? "So you want to die?" Tianyang said. Although Linglong's aura was very strange, Tianyang did not think that Linglong was qualified to fight with him. She was a great sage. That was all. Below them, countless martial highnesses and half-saints were instantly stirred when they saw this. They did not care about fighting with the lion and tiger sages of the Wild Beast Pavilion. However, Tianyang dared to threaten Linglong. He had even attacked Linglong. "How dare you attack Linglong? Get lost. Get out of Chaos Demon City." Chaos Demon City is the territory of the Star Demon Trading Company. A person who attacked Linglong has no right to stay here. "Get out of Chaos Demon City. Get out of South Devil City." Everyone roared. If it was anyone else, they would have a complicated expression and would be in trouble. After all, with so many people pressuring him at the same time, it would be difficult for an ordinary cultivator to resist. However, was Tianyang an ordinary cultivator? In his previous life, the number of people who had died at the hands of Tianyang numbered in the millions. In this life, if the countless Devil Clan members in the Blood Sea were counted, the number of people Tianyang had killed was almost enough to fill a macro world. Thus, around Tianyang, strands of true essence condensed, forming millions of 3-foot-long true essence swords. As far as the eye could see, it was as if a sea of swords had formed around Tianyang. "Do you all want to die too?" Tianyang said coldly as the millions of quintessence swords flickered with a dazzling light. This sword of quintessential essence was not made of pure quintessential essence. It even contained the power of Tianyang's sage stage sword principle. If they were released at the same time, not to mention Wu Zun and half-saints, even low-level saints might not be able to survive the sword rain. At the level of the heavenly sun realm, even a beginner half-saint of the same realm could be killed in a second with a casual move. In this world, most of the saints had only become saints through quintessential essence. Those who had comprehended 2 saint paths were super geniuses. Those who had comprehended 3 saint paths were peerless. And those who had comprehended 4 saint paths were one of a kind. Tianyang had grasped the chaos origin. As long as he had the heart to cultivate, it would not be a problem for him to control thousands of saint paths. He did not even need martial techniques to deal with quintessential essence saints. In an instant, the countless people below were like ducks that had their throats grabbed. They could not make a sound. No one doubted that Tianyang's overflowing killing intent would not spread to them. Tianyang could really kill thousands of Wu Zun and half-saints at the same time. This esteemed guest is a little fierce. I'm so scared. Seeing this, Linglong bewitching woman immediately started to chuckle. However, by the time she returned to her senses, the tip of the enormous sword formed by the fusion of several million true origin swords was already pointed at Linglong bewitching woman's forehead. Get out of my way. Tianyang's voice was as cold as the river of the underworld. Linglong's expression changed completely. Behind her, the lion-tiger saints, who were being protected by Linglong, were so scared that they almost peed their pants. The killing intent and strength that Tianyang displayed now were on a completely different level from when he had fought with them before. The aura of a great saint of human grade was released from Linglong's body. I haven't fought for 128 years. Am I going to fight with a mid-level saint today? Bewitching Lady Linglong said. Her deep blue eyes gradually changed. Her pupils elongated, and the color became the same dark green as her previous defense. Black demonic runes appeared on both sides of her face, and the pressure that erupted in an instant caused even Tianyang's expression to change. She was indeed worthy of being called a demonic woman. Not only was the power of charm like a demon, but she also had the bloodline of the demon clan in her body. Moreover, she was extremely powerful. However, I really don't want to fight with you, Linglong suddenly said. All of a sudden, Linglong opened her mouth and revealed a charming smile. I didn't say that you wouldn't be able to get the news. However, the Star Demon Trading Company still has a bottom line. Since it's an auction item, then the news belongs to the Star Demon Trading Company. Moreover, you can't immediately hunt for the spiritual fire after getting the news. At least, there's a specific time for the spiritual fire to appear. If you want it, the Star Demon Trading Company's auction will be held in 3 days. How about you come again? Linglong said. At the same time, the demonic runes on her face and her dark green vertical pupils gradually returned to their original state. The aura of a great saint was also retracted. However, her voice was still as sweet and seductive as before. Hearing this, Tianyang's cold expression didn't change at all. However, there was a hint of fear in his eyes, as expected of the southern Devil Sea. Even a city ruled by a great saint had hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Although Linglong was only a great saint on the surface, if she went all out, even Tianyang might not be able to win. It would be great if the power of the primordial spirit was fully recovered. Unfortunately, the immortal divine body left behind by Tian-Hao didn't have a part related to the soul. Therefore, facing the threat of an unfathomable existence like Linglong, Tianyang could only temporarily stop. Then, I'll make the reservation, Tianyang said indifferently. The only reason he could convince her was because the spiritual fire needed a specific time to appear. If the Eighth Order's sacred fire didn't appear, then it would be the same whether he got the news sooner or later. Tianyang didn't want to fall out with a powerful demonic woman who had a huge force behind her and was also extremely powerful for something worthless. Of course, as long as you have enough Earth Reiki. Linglong smiled. At this time, Tianyang didn't want to be entangled with Linglong anymore. He turned around and planned to leave. With Linglong around, he wouldn't be able to get the news today. However, this also reminded Tianyang that even if he could defeat an Earth Great Saint, he might not be able to do as he pleased in the Southern Devil Sea. Even if there wasn't a half-saint emperor like old ancestor Xian Yuan, a Heaven Great Saint could defeat him at his peak. Now, it would be risky for Tianyang to fight against a spiritual Great Saint. It seems like I need to buy some treasures to recover the primordial spirit at the auction. Tianyang muttered to himself. At this time, Linglong spoke. May I know your name? Chapter 1330. Chaos Demon City. After the turmoil during the day, Chaos Demon City still couldn't calm down at night. For a long time, the recognized overlords of Chaos Demon City were the Lion and Tiger Saints of the Mad Beast Pavilion, followed by the other forces. After all, a sage was an existence that stood at the top of the pyramid of the mysterious sky, great world. However, today's battle had overturned the worldview of countless people in Chaos Demon City. The former overlords, the Lion and Tiger Saints, were being beaten up by a foreign intermediate sage, and the branch master of the Star Demon Trading Company, who had always kept a low profile, was actually a terrifying almighty of the great sage realm. Everyone had always known that Linglong was strong, but they never expected her to be this strong. A great sage existence could dominate the entire Chaos Demon City, unlike the Mad Beast Pavilion, who was only an overlord in name. Of course, what shocked everyone the most was that Su Tianxiao had actually directly attacked a peerless beauty like Linglong twice in a row. He showed his killing intent without concealing it. This shocked everyone. If it weren't for Tianyang's strength, there would probably be people looking for trouble with Tianyang now. So, this is the reason why you've been talking nonsense for half an hour? In the heavenly underworld demon sex encampment, Li Qingchuan said various versions of the above with an excited face. Young Master Su, you may not know it yourself, but you've defeated the Mad Beast Pavilion, the northern overlord of the Southern Devil region. You've completely destroyed their dignity. Moreover, you've suppressed a great sage existence like Linglong. If this news gets out, young Master Su, you'll be promoted to the top existence of the Southern Devil region. Li Qingchuan refuted. From his flushed face, it could be seen how emotional Li Qingchuan was right now. Tianyang supported his head with one hand and looked at Li Qingchuan with a tilted face. He and Li Qingchuan had only known each other for less than a day, so he couldn't make Li Qingchuan feel proud. Don't talk so much nonsense. Introduce the Star Demon Trading Company to me. Tianyang mercilessly interrupted Li Qingchuan's bragging and said directly, the northern overlord of the Southern Devil region? Two sages? Tianyang wanted to laugh at his own words. In the Eastern Divine Prefecture, Banten Simeon had a transcendent status because it was the only alchemy saint sect. How could the patriarch of one Dan Holy sect, who was only a high-level saint, be treated with respect by so many forces? The spiritual state had 4 great saints, and it was only ranked 5th. The East Sky Godly Prefecture had at least 6 or 7 great saints, and the Southern Demon Ghost Realm, which was always ranked 3rd and 2nd, had at least 10 great saints. At most, the forces of the Southern Devil Clan knew how to make a fortune in silence. All right. Hearing this, Li Qingchuan immediately lost interest in introducing the Star Demon Trading Company. The Star Demon Trading Company is the largest trading company in the entire Southern Demon Ghost region. There are branches in all the major cities of the Southern Devil Kingdom. The leaders of the branches are at least mid-level saints. At the same time, the Star Demon Trading Company also controls more than 55% of the transactions in the Southern Devil Ghost region, and more than 80% of the transactions in the Sage Realm and above. The Star Demon Trading Company itself is not a martial faction. However, the number of strong practitioners they possess is innumerable. Bewitching Girl Linglong shouldn't be the strongest expert in the Star Demon Trading Company. Moreover, according to some rumors, the Star Demon Trading Company seems to have the support of an unfathomably powerful force. Li Qingchuan said. Tianyang nodded slightly when he heard this. It was similar to what he had guessed. When bewitching Girl Linglong revealed her second form, Tianyang knew that the Star Demon Trading Company was not simple. However, as long as they didn't provoke him, Tianyang couldn't be bothered. In that case, you can scram wherever you want. Tianyang waved his hand and returned to his room. He released Ling Yuhan from the Vientiane Sky ruins and ran his finger across the layer of solid ice that could freeze everything. She maintained the poignant smile she had when she used the underworld seals the nine heavens. Tianyang tried his best not to look at her face. However, when he felt the warmth of her frozen finger, he felt as if a knife was being twisted in his heart. In his eyes, the flames of vengeance were also burning. Yuhan, just you wait. It won't take long for you to recover. The Xianyuan family will also be flattened. Tianyang then placed Ling Yuhan back in the Vientiane Sky ruins. He sat down cross-legged and used the most desperate method to cultivate. However, Tianyang didn't notice it. A pair of eyes dimmed in the gap of the door. 3 days later. During these 3 days, Tianyang didn't appear in Chaos Demon City again. However, the news of an unknown young man destroying the Crazy Beast Pavilion spread like wildfire. No one knew how they found out about Tianyang's location. After a night, the Sky Underworld Demon Sect's encampment was completely surrounded. Of course, Tianyang wouldn't meet them. He asked Li Qingchuan to help him deal with them. Unknowingly, the Sky Underworld Demon Sect benefited a lot. However, this wasn't something that Tianyang cared about. Meanwhile, Tianyang had brought Yun Xianyuan and Li Qingchuan to the Star Demon Trading Company. Compared to other auction houses, the Star Demon Trading Company didn't have any special features. However, the powerful aura that was faintly emitted from it set the Star Demon Trading Company apart from other trading companies. Tianyang spent a lot of effort to walk out of the Sky Underworld Demon Sect's encampment. After all, there were too many people who wanted to see a great sage. The Heavenly Underworld Demon Sect was almost completely surrounded. However, all of this changed when Yun Xianyuan froze a few people into ice sculptures. Tianyang and the other two were able to walk out of their encampment. If you had used a little more force, those Wu Zun would have been completely turned into ice sculptures. Tianyang transmitted his voice to Yun Xianyuan. If it wasn't necessary, Tianyang didn't want to kill innocent people. Hearing this, Yun Xianyuan just shook his head slightly. I'm still confident in my control of the mysterious beauty in body. At some point in time, the relationship between Xianyuan Yun and Tianyang had become lukewarm as compared to the enslavement they had for each other. Tianyang didn't care, but Yun Xianyuan cared a lot. If Yun Xianyuan asked to remove the demon slave mark at this moment, Tianyang most likely wouldn't refuse. However, for some reason, Yun Xianyuan didn't say anything. Aha! Our young master Su Tianxiao is finally here. I've been thinking about you for the past few days. At the entrance of the Star Demon Trading Company, a seductive woman in dark purple tights suddenly appeared. She put on her signature charming smile and said, Tianyang didn't bother to pay attention to Ling Long, who seemed to only know how to wear tights. He directly said, I hope there aren't so many ignorant people in this Chaos Demon City. Then, he threw out a dark purple card. Ling Long personally came to the Sky Underworld Demon Sect's encampment and handed it to Tianyang yesterday. In an auction room. It originally belonged to the Mad Beast Pavilion. That's not something our Star Demon Trading Company can interfere with. This auction has always been won by the highest bidder. Ling Long smiled. Tianyang didn't have any intention to look at this seductive woman and walked straight into the auction room. As for Ling Long, she also stopped smiling after Tianyang left. An inexplicable light flashed in her eyes. Her lips slightly opened, and two mosquito-like words came out. Su Tianxiao, Chapter 1331. Star Demon Trading Company, Auction House. In front of the auction stage, there were thousands of seats. The two old men clenched their teeth tightly and looked at a box above. Damn, that's Su Tianxiao. Lion Saint roared. And that damn Star Demon Trading Company. They actually gave our box to that little bastard Su Tianxiao without our consent. These two people were naturally the former overlords of Chaos Demon City, the Lion and Tiger Saints. However, the Lion and Tiger Saints were furious at this moment. With their former status, when the Star Demon Trading Company held an auction, they were allowed to sit in the most honorable box and enjoy the best-made service. But now, because of Tianyang's appearance, they had been kicked out of the private room. They even had to look for members of their own forces to find 2 seats. It was like heaven and earth compared to the previous treatment. The Star Demon Trading Company is a merchant to begin with. It's normal for them to do such a thing in pursuit of profit. However, that Su Tianxiao is too much. Tiger Saint calmed down a little, but he was still furious. At this moment, as everyone entered the venue, an unknown gaze was cast on the Lion and Tiger Saints. Not to mention that they did not have a box. Even the Lion and Tiger Saints' current seats were far from the best. Sensing those gazes, Lion Saint's face became even gloomier. It was as if the surrounding space was about to shatter. However, the Star Demon Trading Company was a large force that was spread throughout the southern Devil Ghost region. They could not tolerate Lion Saint's atrocious behavior. At this moment, Tianyang frowned and drove away all the maids in the box. As a great saint, don't tell me you don't know whether a person needs this thing or not. Tianyang's face was ugly as he stared at Ling Long in front of him. Seeing this, Ling Long immediately muttered, "What an unromantic guy. You still call him young Master Su. A great young master doesn't even want a maid? What does it have to do with you?" Tianyang said indifferently, "So, what are you doing here instead of presiding over the auction?" Tianyang was also rather wary of Ling Long. After all, a human-grade great saint was enough for Tianyang to fight. Moreover, Ling Long's strength seemed to be more than that. Tianyang could sense a dangerous aura just by standing near exquisite demoness. Naturally, he didn't like Ling Long, who was the source of danger. "Young Master Su, you're treating me so roughly. I'm so sad." Bewitching Lady Ling Long smiled and handed over a small booklet. "This is the list of items to be auctioned. Only those in the private rooms will be able to enjoy such treatment. This time, I'm the one who delayed, so I could give it to young Master Su personally." With just a few words and a smile, Li Qingchuan, who was standing beside her, stared at her with his eyes wide open. As for Yun Xinyuan, he had been looking at Ling Long coldly since the beginning. It was as if the coldness in the depths of his eyes was not an act. "Oh." In response, Tianyang just replied indifferently and didn't say anything else. Seeing this, Ling Long immediately sighed and walked out. In the next second, Ling Long appeared in the auction hall. Everyone in Chaos Demon City. "Did you miss me?" Ling Long stood in the middle of the auction stage and smiled. Instantly, countless people seemed to have been awakened and began to make a big fuss. It was as if they weren't here to participate in the auction, but to see Ling Long. What a shameless woman. Seeing this, Yun Xinyuan frowned and said, Tianyang didn't have any opinion on this. At this time, the auction had already begun. Then, let's cut to the chase. Next, let's get to the main topic of this Star Demon auction. The first item to be auctioned is the pinnacle sacred weapon left behind by the West River Sword Saint 300 years ago, the West River Sword. The West River Sword Saint was a powerful sword saint in the western part of the southern demon ghost region who is said to be the most likely to break through to the great saint realm. Although he has fallen, this West River Sword still contains a trace of the might of a great saint. Even if a great saint like me were to use it, it wouldn't be degrading at all. Ling Long introduced. There was nothing special about her lines. It was just that her charming voice made these ordinary lines sound like she was introducing a rare treasure. The emotions of the people below were completely stirred up. Their eyes were fixed on the long sword in Ling Long's hand. Even if they ignored Ling Long's seductive introduction, the value of the West River Sword was extraordinary. The starting price is 200 million Reiki, or 2 or more lower sacred weapons, or an equivalent pill. However, when they heard this, it was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over them. 200 million Reiki was close to the collection of an ordinary sect. Not to mention, this was only the starting price. 300 million. At this time, someone immediately called out. For a saint who had been fighting all year round, the value of Reiki was not that high. 500 million. He directly raised the starting price by 1. Speaking of which, Master, how many Reiki do you have now? Yin Xinyuan turned his head from the auction house and looked at Tianyang, puzzled. He seemed to have never seen Tianyang take out Reiki before. Hearing this, Tianyang was stunned. He then rubbed his temples. I'm not too sure, but just the blood, that Great Saint Space Bag has 80 billion Reiki. It shouldn't be difficult to buy a piece of information. Hearing this, Yun Xianyuan breathed a sigh of relief. Li Qingchuan, on the other hand, was completely stunned. Great Saint? 80 billion Reiki? Could young Master Su have killed a Great Saint? However, when he saw Tianyang's eyes turn murderous when he mentioned the blood of the Great Saint, Li Qingchuan pondered for a moment and kept his mouth shut. In any case, he was just here to join in the fun. In the end, the Pinnacle Saint artifact, Shichuan's sword, was bought by a Sword Dao saint who was not much weaker than the crazed Beast Pavilion. He spent 8 billion Reiki. To be precise, it was 9,876,547,210 billion Reiki, because the crazed Beast Pavilion could only afford 8 billion Reiki. The rest was used by the Sword Dao saint to discuss the Lion and Tiger saints. Old Monster Su. The Lion Saint's face was extremely gloomy as he stared at the grinning saint in box number 2. Why did you call this seat? The Sword Dao Saint called Old Monster Su chuckled, infuriating the Lion Saint. Sword Saint Su is actually stronger than the Lion Saint and Tiger Saint in terms of individual strength. However, the Lion and Tiger Saints were able to defeat him when they worked together. Therefore, Sword Saint Su has always been unconvinced and finds an opportunity to discuss the crazed Beast Pavilion. Li Qingchuan muttered. Hearing this, Tianyang shrugged his shoulders. He did not care about the grudges of the crazed Beast Pavilion. I didn't expect the first auction item to be sold for nearly 10 billion Reiki. This is really surprising. Seeing this, Linglong chuckled. However, even if the following treasures are inferior to the West River Sword, they aren't that much inferior. In the next moment, Linglong waved her hand and a fist-sized golden fruit appeared in midair. Vaguely, one could see that the fruit had the outline of a baby. Seeing this, Yun Xianyuan and Li Qingchuan did not react. However, Tianyang's pupils shrank. Chapter 1332. Yuanying Fruit. Tianyang's expression changed slightly. He stared at the fruit that was floating in the air and emitting a strange light. The fruit seemed to be formed by the power of the primordial spirit. Tianyang used the power of the primordial spirit to sense it. Apart from the core of the fruit, all he felt was the power of the primordial spirit. Tianyang's primordial spirit was recovering at a fast speed under the nourishment of the aura emitted by the yuanying fruit. Tianyang's injury was not an ordinary injury. He was killed directly. If not for the strength of the indestructible bones, he would have died a long time ago. In that kind of situation, there was even no need for the white-haired youth to deliver the final blow, as Heavenly Yang's origin spirit would disperse and die with the passage of time. Ling Yuhan's underworld seal, the 9 heavens, had not only frozen the white-haired youth. At the same time, it had half-frozen Tianyang's primordial spirit, so that he would not die immediately. Otherwise, Tianyang would not have had the chance to shout at the heavens' expanse Holy Spirit to save Ling Yuhan. Even so, Tianyang's primordial spirit was still in a half-dead state, even if his true yuan and physical body were recovering with the cultivation of the immortal divine body. The yuanying fruit was Tianyang's chance to recover to his peak state. This yuanying fruit is produced in the Western Buddha Blessed Land. The Western Buddha Blessed Land is closed off and xenophobic. Therefore, it is not easy to obtain this yuanying fruit. Moreover, the yuanying fruit itself is very valuable. Therefore, the starting price is 100 million Reiki. Linglong said. Hearing that, the whole place was silent for a while. A treasure used to recover and strengthen the primordial spirit could be said to be one of the rarest treasures in the world. However, a normal injury to the primordial spirit did not require the yuanying fruit. Those who needed the yuanying fruit might die before they could consume it. However, it was undeniable that the yuanying fruit had a strong healing effect. In the Star Demon Auction House, there were many ancestors with powerful primordial spirits. With this yuanying fruit, they might be able to turn the situation around slightly. As for strengthening the strength of the primordial spirit, this was also extremely useful. The silence of the auction house was only the calm before the storm. 1 billion. Instantly, the lion and tiger sages of the Wild Beast Pavilion spoke up. Even if Tianyang had destroyed the entire Wild Beast Pavilion and required a large amount of resources to repair it, the Wild Beast Pavilion's foundation was not something that other forces could compare to. The nascent soul fruit was worth about 5 to 6 billion Reiki. With the power of the lion and tiger saints, it was possible. 5 billion. However, Old Monster Su wasn't willing to let the Crazy Beast Pavilion get their hands on it so easily. After obtaining the Sichuan sword, Old Monster Su's foundation wouldn't be much. However, Old Monster Su could still continue his disgusting work. Old Monster Su, do you really want to go against my Crazy Beast Pavilion? Seeing this, Lion Saint's face darkened as he glared at Old Monster Su. It was as if flames were about to spurt out from his eyes. 5 billion. The Lion Saint snorted coldly and spoke again, raising the price by 1 billion Reiki. The previous fight for the Sichuan sword wasn't as fierce as this. In just a few seconds, the price had risen to a level that some rogue saints could only look up to. This was also a decision made by the Lion Saint in order to get rid of Old Monster Su's entanglement as soon as possible. However, before Old Monster Su could speak, a voice rang out. 3 billion. I, Su Tianxiao, want this nascent soul fruit. Tianyang had made his move. The level 8 sacred flame would definitely attract countless experts. There might even be great saints, and there might even be spiritual or earthly great saints. In Tianyang's current state, unless the Chaos Origin was fully activated, he wouldn't even be able to defeat a spiritual great saint. If he wanted to obtain the level 8 sacred flame, he had to recover to his peak. The nascent soul fruit was something that Tianyang needed to recover to his peak. Su, Tian, Xiao. However, Lion Sage's eyes turned red when he heard this. The reason why he was defeated by Old Monster Su's 70 million Reiki was because of Tianyang. This Su Tianxiao had directly destroyed the Mad Beast Pavilion, causing the budget of nearly 20 billion Reiki to be reduced to 8 billion. Tianyang had indirectly caused the Lion Saint to suffer a loss the first time. This time, Tianyang had personally taken action. 5 billion. This is the Star Demon Auction. It's not a place for a mountain bastard to put on a show. The Lion Saint roared. At this time, Old Monster Su looked at Tianyang in the opposite box with great fear. Tianyang's strength was too strong. He didn't have much left after obtaining the Sichuan sword. It wasn't worthwhile for him to fight against someone like Tianyang for a nascent soul fruit that he didn't really need. However, the Lion Saint didn't seem to realize that the Star Demon Auction House wasn't his protective shield. The reason why Ling Long had taken action was only because the information about the Rank 8 Holy Flame was already an auction item for the Star Demon Trading Company. In order to prevent her own interests from being damaged, she had taken action to block Tianyang's fatal attack. For billion, Tianyang said leisurely. He had just taken a quick inventory of the interspatial bags. There were all sorts of interspatial bags, and they contained a huge pile of Tianyang's spoils of war. The largest was the Blood Soul Supreme Sage's 80 billion Reiki, while the Blood Slaughter Supreme Sage had 50 billion Reiki. The Thunder Supreme Sage only had slightly more than 10 billion Reiki. As for the other bits and pieces, there were probably a few billion Reiki. In total, Tianyang had more than 100 billion Reiki. It was an exaggeration to say that he was as rich as a country. Why would he need to be afraid of the Mad Beast Pavilion, whose budget had been reduced by his killing? 5 billion. Just as Tianyang's voice fell, the Lion Saint spoke angrily. He was completely at odds with Tianyang. Even if he suffered blood loss, he wanted Tianyang to suffer a great loss. However, seeing this, the Tiger Saint's expression changed slightly. Big brother, we can't beat Su Tianxiao. The Tiger Saint hurriedly spoke. Originally, it seemed that Tianyang didn't intend to destroy the Mad Beast Pavilion. However, if the Lion Saint continued to anger the Tianyang, the result would be hard to say. What are you afraid of, Ling Long? the Lion Saint said subconsciously. In his heart, there was only anger toward Tianyang. Linglong won't help us, the Tiger Saint said loudly. The Lion Saint was stunned. As if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him, his heart turned cold. What old monster Su could think of, he couldn't. With just one sentence, the Lion Saint understood the cause and effect. The ridicule that was about to escape his mouth was forcefully swallowed. The Southern Demon Auction House respected strength and had the biggest fist. And they couldn't beat Su Tianshao. 5 billion. Tianyang spoke again. At this time, the whole place was dead silent. Seeing this, Linglong frowned slightly and said in a voice that could make one's bones go soft, "Young Master Su, your price is making me suffer a loss." However, Tianyang was unmoved and looked at the nascent soul fruit indifferently. "All right." Seeing that Tianyang didn't say a word, Linglong sighed. How could there be such an unromantic person in the world? 5 billion going once, 5 billion going twice. Chapter 1333. 5 billion was an extremely huge number. Even if it was converted to gold coins, it was enough to make ordinary countries look up to it. However, bewitching Lady Linglong pouted her lips, and her face was filled with displeasure. In her imagination, the nascent soul fruit was a treasure worth 5 to 6 billion. After auction, it would be worth at least 7 to 8 billion. In the end, she was only left with the lowest price of 5 billion. Even though more than 10 auction items had passed, Linglong was still gritting her teeth in dissatisfaction. "Young Master Su, you're really a little unromantic. Linglong is so nice to you. Why don't you add a few 100 million to make her happy?" At this moment, Li Qingchuan spoke. After witnessing Tianyang's terrifying strength, he could not continue to act wise. In the face of absolute strength, the wisdom of a weakling was just a decoration. It was just like the crazy tattoos on a gladiator's body. Other than looking good, it was useless. Tisk woman. Yun Xianyuan, on the other hand, snorted in dissatisfaction. She was born in the Xianyuan family. No matter how bad the treatment was, she still maintained a noble attitude. Naturally, she was unhappy with a woman like Linglong who was charming. At the same time, she was unhappy with Li Qingchuan. "If there's no competition, I even want to deduct a few 100 million, Tianyang said. Then, a smile appeared on his face. She doesn't like to waste money. Hearing this, Li Qingchuan was stunned. Yin Xianyuan, who had just opened her mouth to mock Su Yu, also stopped. Then, a bitter smile appeared on her face, and she slowly closed her mouth. "Lord Su, your nascent soul fruit." At this moment, a handsome and tall man walked into the private room and came in front of Tianyang. At this moment, Tianyang could not be bothered to compete with Li Qingchuan. His gaze turned to the nascent soul fruit. It was the size of a fist, and its surface was not smooth. Instead, it was bumpy. However, the aura of the primordial spirit energy emanating from it was enough to shock everyone. What a strong primordial spirit energy. Yun Xuanyuan's expression changed. Even if the Xianyuan family had countless treasures, a magical item like the nascent soul fruit was not something that could be found easily. It's a pity that there are no roots. Tianyang, on the other hand, observed for a while and sighed. If they had roots, they might be able to grow more nascent soul fruits if they were thrown into the Vientiane sky ruins. Tianyang relied on his years of accumulation and almost no longer needed alchemy ingredients. However, this nascent soul fruit, Tianyang had some ideas. A single nascent soul fruit might not be enough, Yang Qi said. However, the great sages have a lot of treasures. Tianyang smiled and waved his hand, tossing the interspatial bag containing 5 billion Reiki to the attendant. That, Lady Linglong said that this nascent soul fruit is a gift for Lord Su, the attendant said in a somewhat panicked manner. No need. Tianyang frowned slightly and shooed the waiter away. I think that woman has her eyes on Master's body. Otherwise, why would she keep holding on to Master? At this time, Yin Xianyuan said angrily, but Tianyang didn't care too much. You are indeed good at gathering information in a trading company. Tianyang pursed his lips and kept the nascent soul fruit. Tianyang had a feeling that this nascent soul fruit wasn't available at the Star Demon auction. It was only added after his arrival. In the hall, Ling Long, who was hosting the auction, curled her lips into a smile. 3 days ago, Ling Long had vaguely sensed the sage sword principle among the thousands of swords, as well as the sudden appearance of the man and woman. Now, this nascent soul fruit was targeted at the severely injured primordial spirit. Interesting. Ling Long curled her lips and continued to host the auction. The next auction item, which is also the item that everyone has been looking forward to for the past 3 days, is news of an 8th Order sacred flame. Ling Long said coquettishly. Hearing this, the entire hall fell silent. Almost everyone turned their gazes to that private room. In fact, the news of an 8th Order sacred flame was not very attractive to Chaos Demon City, where the strongest person was only a great sage. However, the reason why everyone was looking forward to it was obvious. Hearing Ling Long's introduction, Lion Sage, who was in the public seats, immediately gritted his teeth and made a cracking sound. It was as if he was whipping the corpse beast pavilion. Damn the Star Demon Trading Company. How dare they not let me withdraw the auction item? Lion Sage roared, while Tiger Sage sighed helplessly. I don't need to elaborate on the value of an 8th Order sacred flame. Let me introduce this 8th Order sacred flame. This 8th Order sacred flame is extremely rare. It is not the kind of powerful spiritual flame that is purely offensive. Instead, it is extremely useful for refining elixirs, as if it was born for refining elixirs. It is called the Green Profound Flame. In the next moment, Ling Long waved her hand, and a crystal that was burning with a green flame appeared in her hand. Seeing this, Tianyang was stunned. Good news? This crystal contains a seed flame of the Green Profound Flame. Therefore, it also contains information about the Green Profound Flame. After all, if the information is in the Mad Beast Pavilion's mind, the Star Demon Trading Company will not auction something that can be infinitely replicated. Ling Long smiled. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded. If that was the case, then it was not bad. If it was really just a sentence, and the Lion Sage and Tiger Sage directly announced the news after the auction to disgust him, then Tianyang would be disgusted. If there was a carrier for the information, then it was reasonable. This news contains all kinds of information about the 8th Order Sacred Flame, as well as the time and location. The starting price is 10 million Reiki. Bewitching Lady Ling Long chuckled. However, at this moment, the entire auction house was completely silent. Even the Lion Sage and Tiger Sage of the Mad Beast Pavilion did not dare to open their mouths again. Because of this news, they had already been killed by Tianyang once. If they were to attack Tianyang again, then it was hard to guarantee that the infuriated Tianyang would not overturn the entire Mad Beast Pavilion again. The others could not compare to the Mad Beast Pavilion, and they did not have the protection of the Star Demon Trading Company. Naturally, there was silence. 10 million Reiki. Tianyang slowly opened his mouth. Hearing this, Ling Long was also stunned. The existence that had directly thrown out 5 billion Reiki was only willing to offer 10 million Reiki? 10 million Reiki going once. There is no increase. Meanwhile, bewitching Lady Ling Long displayed her signature flirtatious smile in an attempt to arouse everyone's desire. However, although the desire was aroused, the courage to go against the existence that had defeated 2 saints was not aroused. After a full 3 minutes, there was still only one bid in the auction house. In order not to waste any more time, Ling Long could only glare bitterly at Tianyang's private room before she announced, 10 million going twice, 10 million going thrice. Congratulations to young Master Su for winning the information crystal of the 8th Order Sacred Flame. Seeing this, the corners of Tianyang's mouth curled into the first genuine smile since the battle. Chapter 1334. Tianyang had already obtained the treasure to restore the primordial spirit and the information about the rank 8 sacred flame. There was no longer any value in staying at the Star Demon auction. Tianyang went straight to the Star Demon Trading Company and handed the 10 million Reiki to the supervisor. Then, he took the message crystal and left. None of this alerted anyone. The lion and tiger saints were probably still sulking in the Star Demon auction house. Master, what's recorded in this message crystal? After returning to the station, Tianyang immediately swallowed and refined the message crystal. The massive amount of information contained in it also surged into Tianyang's mind. The location of the green, profound flame, as well as the time and origin of its appearance. The green, profound flame was discovered a few years ago. Due to some reason, it periodically appears in a place called the Zhongjue mountain range. It appears twice a year. However, even though it has appeared a few times, no one has been able to devour it. There is still half a month's time before the next appearance of the green, profound flame. Tianyang said. Upon hearing this, Yun Xuanyuan's face revealed a hint of joy. That is to say, Yuhan will be able to wake up in half a month's time? If we can obtain it, that will be the case. Tianyang nodded slightly. At the same time, a murderous intent flashed across his eyes. He was determined to obtain the heavenly sun and the azure profound flame. Anyone who tried to stop him, he would kill without a doubt. However, the Zhongjue mountain range is not far from here. We don't need to reach the Zhongjue mountain range now, Tianyang said. In the next moment, he took out the nascent soul fruit that he had obtained from the Star Demon auction. One nascent soul fruit alone may not be enough to restore me to my peak state. Therefore, in the next half a month, I will need to refine elixirs. There might be quite a number of pill tribulations. If you don't want to stay by the side and be struck by lightning, you can explore the ruins that Li Qingchuan mentioned before. Tianyang said. Hearing this, Li Qingchuan glanced at Yun Xianyuan, who had been shrouded in a layer of darkness from beginning to end. Other than his voice and strength, nothing else could be seen. Previously, I was blind. I didn't know young Master Su's strength. That secret treasure is only at the level of high-level saint realm. It can't even defeat you, young Master Su. It's completely worthless to you. Li Qingchuan said. At the same time, Li Qingchuan was a little curious. In order to recover the power of the Sage Realm's primordial spirit, one would need at least a minor saint-grade elixir. However, Tianyang's martial cultivation was already so terrifying. In terms of alchemy, he was also a minor saint alchemist. I will be wherever Master is. Master, have you forgotten that I can't be too far away from you? Yun Xianyuan shook her head decisively. What a joke. If she didn't stay by Tianyang's side, was she going to court death? Hearing this, Tianyang was stunned. Then, he patted his head and revealed an embarrassed look. I forgot about this. I'll remove your demon slave mark now. Tianyang just remembered that Yun Xianyuan was not only his maiden name, but in fact, she was even more miserable than a maid. She was a slave who was completely controlled by him. Tianyang hadn't exercised his power as a master, so he didn't think about it. Now that Yun Xianyuan mentioned it, he naturally felt embarrassed. After all, the awakened Xianyuanine body played a significant role in safely escaping from the sphere of influence of the Xianyuan family. Based on this alone, Tianyang felt embarrassed to let Yun Xianyuan continue to be a slave. No, Master's primordial spirit hasn't recovered yet. If you remove the slave mark by force, there might be some side effects. I don't need to be too far away from Master now, so I'll keep it for now, Yun Xianyuan said. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded. Without thinking too much, he took out his Xianming fire cauldron. However, this Xianming fire cauldron is still a little inferior. Tianyang looked at the Xianming fire cauldron that he had brought from the Tianshao Great World to the Xiantian Great World and frowned slightly. Previously, when he was refining elixirs, he only refined some healing elixirs. He didn't need an elixir cauldron to refine them. However, the elixir that Tianyang was going to refine next was one of the best among the divine grade elixirs. It was a divine grade elixir, the nascent soul-pregnant elixir. A nascent soul fruit alone was not enough to completely recover. However, if it was refined into a nascent soul-pregnant elixir, it would be a different story. Not only would it be able to completely restore the power of Tianyang's primordial spirit, but it would also leave behind a trace of power while it was recovering. This would allow the primordial spirit to gradually strengthen during the recovery process. If Tianyang could refine the nascent soul-pregnant elixir and break through to the mid-level of the saint realm, even someone like Xianyuan Kongming would be nothing more than a snack in front of him. However, the 10,000 pill cannon seems to be insufficient. Even the complete version of Banten Simun's myriad pill scripture in the ancient times was only a comprehensive collection of great saint-level elixir recipes. The current myriad pill scripture only had about 70% of its contents. The nascent soul-pregnant elixir was already the best of the best. If Qianyang's strength continued to grow, not only would there not be enough herbs in the Vientiane sky market, but even the elixir recipes in the myriad pill scripture would not be enough. However, for now, I can still refine the nascent soul-pregnant elixir, albeit barely. Tianyang smiled faintly. Then, the true flames of destruction rose. The half-step 8th level sacred flame instantly enveloped the mysterious underworld fire cauldron. Then, waves of terrifying power bloomed from the mysterious underworld fire cauldron. The cauldron was heated up in an instant. In the next moment, Tianyang's face turned serious. With a wave of his hand, rays of dazzling light flashed from his space bag. With the nascent soul fruit as the lead, thousands of herbs appeared around Tianyang. The Vientiane sky market originally did not have the other ingredients for the nascent soul-pregnant elixir. However, Tianyang had killed so many great saints and obtained so many inheritances from the ruins. Apart from the main ingredient, the nascent soul fruit, Tianyang already had 2 portions of the other ingredients. The two of you leave, Tianyang said. Li Qingchuan and Yun Xianyuan nodded when they heard this. After the two of them left, Tianyang's eyes flashed with a dazzling light. Release the power of the Saint Realm primordial spirit. Release the Saint Realm pill, Dao. In the next moment, a terrifying dragon power bloomed. Tianyang controlled the true flames of destruction to burn in the mysterious underworld fire cauldron. On the other hand, Tianyang waved his hand and threw countless herbs into the mysterious underworld fire cauldron. The 9 fire dragons roared furiously. After fusing with Tianyang's Dragon Emperor physique, the refining power of the 9 fire dragons had increased exponentially. It was a new generation of the 9 dragons wheel reversal technique that had been created after fusing with the countless inheritances that Tianyang had obtained. Chapter 1335. 10 days later, because Tianyang's primordial spirit had been severely injured, the refining of a nascent soul-pregnant pill was extremely difficult for Tianyang. It was not that refining, fusing, and condensing the pill was difficult, but Tianyang had almost used up all the remaining primordial spirit power in the latter half of the refining process. In the end, Tianyang's primordial spirit power could no longer control the true destructive flames. He could only use the immortal fire to replace the true destructive flames to continue refining the pill. Even so, the immortal fire had to consume the primordial spirit power to control it. In the end, after refining the nascent soul-pregnant pill, Tianyang swallowed it without hesitation. After refining for half a day, it was now. Above Chaos Demon City, wind and thunder came together, and it was gloomy for thousands of miles. It was as if a natural disaster was coming. The supreme pressure from the entire world seemed to crush Chaos Demon City, causing countless cultivators in Chaos Demon City to reveal shocked expressions. Some of the weaker cultivators even began to fear. Could it be that someone is going through a divine tribulation? In the crazy beast pavilion, the lion and tiger sages were in disbelief as they looked at the great tribulation of wind and thunder above their heads. The terrifying power contained in it could definitely destroy the crazy beast pavilion that they had just rebuilt in the past 10 days. Back then, there were also geniuses who had become sages with 2 divine paths. However, the divine tribulation they encountered was definitely not this strong. On the other side, in a lightning sword sect where Old Monster Su was. Old Monster Su looked at the endless thunderclouds in the sky with fear. Why do I feel that the thunderclouds seem to have been suppressed for a long time, and now they are erupting? In fact, that was the case. After Tianyang finished refining the pill, He asked Yun Xinyuan to snatch the essence of the lightning tribulation from the pill tribulation and throw it into the nascent soul-pregnant pill. Then he swallowed it immediately. The lightning tribulation could not find a target for a while, so it naturally stopped for a long time. Now, the aura of the nascent soul-pregnant pill was released from Tianyang's body, and it immediately targeted Tianyang. Moreover, because Yun Xinyuan had snatched the essence of the lightning tribulation, the great tribulation of wind and thunder this time was much stronger than the one caused by the nascent soul-pregnant pill. Boom, boom, boom. A bolt of lightning seemed to tear the entire sky apart. Next, countless bolts of lightning roared ferociously like giant dragons. He charged toward the heavenly underworld demon sect's encampment. That place is the heavenly underworld demon sect, where Su Tianxiao is. The lion and tiger sages of the wild beast pavilion were stunned when they saw the direction of the lightning. Then they revealed expressions of ecstasy. Ha ha ha! I knew that Su Tianxiao, that bastard, would incur the wrath of the heavens and the resentment of men. He would definitely attract a heavenly tribulation. He's a saint to begin with, yet lightning still fell from the sky. It's obvious that he's committed too many sins. Lion Saint laughed out loud. Tiger Saint, who was beside him, also revealed a smug smile. Let Tianyang continue to be arrogant? This tribulation of wind and thunder that even they might not be able to withstand was a warning from the heavens to Tianyang. Inside the Star Demon Trading Company, Linglong looked in the direction of the lightning in surprise, and a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Beside her, a black-robed man knelt on one knee. Lord Linglong, there's a 60% chance that Su Tianxiao is the Tianyang who slaughtered the Xianyuan family and even caused the Xianyuan family's ancestor to take action. However, Su Tianxiao's height, body shape, and face are poles apart from Tianyang's. Therefore, there's still a 40% chance that it's a coincidence. The black-robed man said. Linglong smiled gently. How can there be so many coincidences in this world? One coincidence is understandable, but with so many coincidences stacked together, there can only be one. I didn't expect that after killing the Xianyuan family until there were only 2 people left and turning the entire divine central continent and even the Xintian great world upside down, this guy would come to my southern devil region. Linglong chuckled. Hearing this, the black-robed man also spoke up. Lord Linglong, according to our calculations, if we kill Tianyang now and then look for the Xianyuan family, it's very likely that we'll receive a reward from the Xianyuan family and their friendship. If we don't kill him, there's a risk that the Xianyuan family will blame the Star Demon Trading Company when they find out. Moreover, Tianyang might not be of any value to our Star Demon Trading Company. This great tribulation of wind and lightning just so happens to be Old Kuan. Although your information is good, you're still not good enough to see the big picture. On the other hand, Linglong interrupted the black-robed man without any hesitation. How do you know that the Xianyuan family's friendship will be of any use? Although there are only 2 people left in the Xianyuan family, they have a half-saint emperor. It can be said that they're the strongest among the mortal factions. Their friendship, a person who's about to die, will have no value. Linglong chuckled. Moreover, are you sure that the great tribulation of wind and lightning is meant to attack him and not help him? The black-robed man was stunned. At this moment, in the heavenly underworld demon sect's encampment, countless lightning bolts bombarded Tianyang's body. Tianyang was still sitting cross-legged on the ground, constantly absorbing and refining the energy of the nascent soul-pregnant pill. Although the lightning bolts could injure a great sage, they didn't leave a single mark on Tianyang's body. It was as if the lightning bolt's essence had merged into Tianyang's body. This is Yun Xinyuan was standing closest to Tianyang, so he naturally saw it the clearest. Tianyang had forcefully turned the lightning tribulation that was about to shatter his body into a form of training for his physical body. At the same time, Yun Xinyuan could feel that the gusts of wind were extremely destructive to the primordial spirit. However, Tianyang was still as immovable as a mountain. Moreover, The aura around his body was constantly growing stronger. He was using the lightning to train his body and the wind to train his soul. The wind-thunder tribulation would severely damage one's spirit and physical body. No matter how strong one was, they wouldn't dare to say that they would dare to resist it, as Tianyang did. However, not only did Tianyang resist it, but he also used the destructive power to make himself stronger. Is this the world of the strong? Li Qingchuan muttered to himself. He originally thought that the heavenly underworld demon sect master's cultivation was already at the advanced sage realm. However, after seeing Tianyang's performance, Li Qingchuan realized that he was just a frog at the bottom of the well. At this moment, the power of the primordial spirit surged around Tianyang's body. It turned into a storm of primordial spirit. It blocked the lightning and wind from the primordial spirit. Tianyang's aura was also growing at an unbelievable speed. In the next moment, a sword light bloomed from Tianyang's body and shot toward the sky. The lightning tribulation that covered a radius of 10,000 miles was torn apart. In an instant, it was torn apart by the sword light. Resplendent sunlight poured down. It was as if the sky was splitting open. Chapter 1336. In a mighty primordial spirit storm, Tianyang slowly stood up. His eyes seemed to contain all the worlds in the universe, but they also seemed to be burning with balls of fire. Sword come! There was a sword cry. In Tianyang's hand, the great void sword embryo instantly burst out with tens of thousands of sword light. Tianyang's hand moved. It didn't seem to move, because in the next second, Tianyang's hand returned to its original state. As for the sky, it was split into four by a terrifying cross. Countless black clouds and the terrible great tribulation of wind and thunder turned into nothingness at this moment. On this day, Tianyang returned to his peak state. Master has finally recovered. Seeing this, Yin Xianyuan was suddenly very excited. Just as he was about to rush up, he thought of something and stopped abruptly. Tianyang smiled gently. With a wave of his right hand, the great void sword embryo was absorbed into his body. At this moment, the entire Chaos Demon City fell into a dead silence. Previously, the terrible power that Tianyang had burst out, although it was only for a moment, still shocked the entire Chaos Demon City. It was as if Tianyang was the only one in the world. The strength that Tianyang had shown when he destroyed the Wild Beast Pavilion was also very strong, but it was still strong enough for the Wild Beast Pavilion's two saints to have the thought of fighting against him. At this moment, Tianyang's strength, it was so strong that the Lion and Tiger Saints could only watch and didn't dare to have the slightest intention of resisting. Big brother, we'd better not think about revenge, Tiger Saint said with a trembling voice. The only response to Tiger Saint was silence and Lion Saint's slightly trembling body. Moreover, we may not be able to kill him. At this moment, Linglong smiled gently and said, on the side, the black-robed man trembled all over and couldn't speak for a long time. In Chaos Demon City, countless saints were silent at this moment. Su Tianxiao, who seemed to be strong but brainless, seemed to be a different person at this moment. They only dared to submit. What we're going to do next is not something you can participate in. I'm also not interested in your remnants. Thus, you can do whatever you want from now on. Tianyang said in the heavenly underworld demon sect's encampment. The primordial spirit storm and the power of the Saint Realm Sword were all absorbed into his body. He looked at Li Qingchuan and chuckled. Hearing this, Li Qingchuan shuddered. In the end, he could only let out a sigh. In fact, the heavenly underworld demon sect and Su Tianxiao had no relationship at all. Instead, the sky underworld devil sect owed Su Tianxiao a favor. Although Tianyang himself didn't care, Li Qingchuan had always wanted to be by Tianyang's side. However, it seemed that it was impossible now. Thank you, young Master Su. Li Qingchuan clasped his fists. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded slightly and looked towards the sky. There seemed to be a green flame burning in front of him. At this moment, the flame of the green, profound flame was jumping continuously. Because in another 5 days, the green profound flame would be born for the second time this year. Let's go. Tianyang chuckled. Hearing this, Yun Xianyuan also nodded. In the next moment, the two figures flashed and disappeared from the Chaos Demon City. The green profound flame is a level 8 sacred flame. Although its grade is so high, its lethality isn't very strong. Therefore, the green profound flame is so suitable for refining elixirs. One of the conditions to control the green profound flame is to have a strong primordial spirit. Flying in the sky of the Southern Demon Sect, Tianyang's eyes kept flashing with information about the green profound flame. This information was dug out from the incomplete memories of the vast expanse Saint Spirit. Although it might not be useful, it was still a great help to Tianyang. Although its lethality isn't strong, it's just right to melt Yuhan's 9 underworld power. Tianyang muttered to himself with a smile at the corner of his mouth. Burial Mountain Range, wait for me. The Burial Mountain Range was only 3 million miles away from the Chaos Demon City. With Tianyang's speed, it didn't take long for him to reach the Burial Mountain Range. Legend has it that the Burial Mountain Range has buried countless experts. There are even great sages and saint emperors. Looking at it today, it's true. Tianyang looked at the deathly aura around him and muttered to himself. The Burial Mountain Range wasn't huge. It was only 8,000 miles long. However, the 8,000 miles long mountain range was filled with a strong and uncomfortable deathly aura. If one wasn't careful, the deathly aura would easily enter one's body. The green profound flame is a famous flame of life. Why would it appear in such a place filled with deathly aura? Tianyang was a little surprised. However, with the true flames of destruction, Tianyang wasn't afraid of the deathly aura at all. Yun Xianyuan had the Xuani Yin body and could even control the deathly aura to a certain extent. Naturally, he wasn't afraid. There are already people in the Burial Mountain Range. At this moment, Yun Xianyuan spoke with a hint of hostility in his eyes. In the distance, there were many powerful existences sitting cross-legged on top of the mountains. Although they were far away and couldn't feel the aura of those experts, each of them was at least a peak Saint Realm expert. There were even great sages. An 8th order sacred flame. Even a great sage would be tempted. It's normal for a great sage to appear. Tianyang, on the other hand, smiled indifferently. However, a great sage is just SOSO. If you stop me, I'll kill you. As someone who had killed 3 great sages and severely injured one, Tianyang really didn't care about great sages. An 8th order sacred flame could only attract a spiritual grade great sage. Tianyang was an expert who could even severely injure an earthly grade great sage. Moreover, Tianyang was only allowed to win this time. He couldn't allow any failure. An acquaintance? At this moment, Tianyang was stunned. The power of primordial spirit sensed a familiar aura. Then, he looked in that direction. On the other side, there were about 3 people on top of a mountain. One of them was wearing a white robe and looking at the Zhongjua mountain range with an arrogant expression. Tianyang had interacted with one of the other 2 people before. Tianyang had killed He Yiming and wanted to take revenge. As a result, Tianyang had come knocking on his door and forced him to be Ling Yuhan's sparring partner for several months. It was He Yizhua from the Void Mountain. Even the Void Mountain wants to interfere? A look of surprise flashed across Tianyang's eyes. However, he still didn't show the slightest fear. The white-robed youth seemed to have sensed someone's gaze and turned to look at Tianyang. Waves of powerful primordial spirit power surged around the white-robed youth's body. It was also a Saint Realm primordial spirit. Interesting. Tianyang smiled slightly, but he didn't care. He directly ignored the white-robed youth's Saint Realm primordial spirit power. The Void Mountain was recognized as one of the most powerful forces in the continent. It wasn't strange for them to have a few primordial spirit saints. However, the white-robed youth was slightly stunned when he saw Tianyang easily avoid his gaze. How could he look away under the gaze of the white-robed youth's Saint Realm primordial spirit power? There's still someone in the Southern Devil Mountain who can catch my eye. Chapter 1337. What? Heiswa was stunned when he heard the white-robed young man's exclamation. He turned to look at where the white-robed young man had been looking. However, Tianyang and Yun Xinyuan had already left, so Heiswa only saw air. Even if he saw it, he would definitely not recognize Tianyang. After all, Tianyang's physical appearance was completely different from before due to his control over his physical body. Even if Tianhao and Xinyuan Qingming, who had left long ago, were here, they probably wouldn't be able to recognize him. You don't have to worry about that, the white-robed young man said indifferently. The white-robed young man said lightly. Hearing this, Heiswa also lowered his head. Not everyone was equal in the Void Mountain. The people of the Void Mountain who dominated the outside world were not considered very strong geniuses in the Void Mountain. Since they had parted ways with Tianyang, they had only just broken through to the beginner-level Saint Realm. They had come to the Zongjua Mountain range this time to see the world with a white-robed young man. The other person was only an intermediate-level Saint Realm cultivator, the same as Heiswa. The white-robed young man was the true, strongest genius of the Void Mountain. The Void Mountain's Shao Zun. As for his real name, almost no one knew except for the true higher-ups of the Void Mountain. However, the Void Mountain's Shao Zun was a genius who had reached the Saint Realm with the unprecedented 4 holy paths. Now, he had stepped into the human Great Supreme Saint Realm. If he used his full strength, he could even fight against a spiritual Great Supreme Saint. This was why the Void Mountain's Shao Zun dared to fight for the Green Ming Fire. With such a powerful talent, there were not many people in the entire continent who could defeat him. The Void Mountain's Shao Zun kept scanning the place where Tianyang had been, and a trace of shock appeared on his face. The guy who had been looking at him had suddenly disappeared. Even his Saint Realm primordial spirit power could not detect that person's trace. Could it be a spiritual Great Supreme Saint? The Void Mountain's Shao Zun's expression instantly turned grave. At this moment, the intermediate-level saint whom the Void Mountain's Shao Zun had mistaken for a spiritual Great Supreme Saint found a cave and slowly released his primordial spirit power. They were both primordial spirits, but Tianyang's primordial spirit power was much stronger than the Void Mountain Shao Zun's. For example, Tianyang could easily see through the Void Mountain's Shao Zun cultivation was of the human Great Supreme Saint Realm, but the Void Mountain Shao Zun still had mistaken him for a spiritual Great Supreme Saint Realm Supreme Saint. The Shao Zun was still mistaken was a spiritual Great Supreme Saint Realm. At this moment, Tianyang closed his eyes and pierced the power of his primordial spirit into the ground of the Zongjua mountain range. The mysterious green flame is an extremely gentle flame. If I can tame it with the power of my Yuan spirit, it will be much easier to refine it. Rays of light flashed across Tianyang's eyes. Immediately after, the power of his primordial spirit trembled, and he instantly found a powerful aura. However, Tianyang's eyes narrowed slightly as well. Tianyang's primordial spirit power sensed that the owner of the powerful primordial spirit power was a corpse. The primordial spirit power had not completely disappeared, so Tianyang could tell that the owner of the corpse was a Saint Lord. A Saint Lord died under the Zongjua mountain range? Tianyang was surprised and continued to search. There had been no news of a Saint Lord dying in the Zongjua mountain range recently. Tianyang thought that he was not well informed, so he ignored it. However, in the next moment, Tianyang's primordial spirit power trembled again. This discovery completely shocked Tianyang. The underground of the Zongjua mountain range was tens of thousands of meters away from the surface. There was no fire elemental lava or extremely powerful fire elemental treasures that a normal spirit fire should have. There was only one, and it was like a supreme castle. It was a black castle. In the castle, powerful primordial spirit power trembled. Tianyang's primordial spirit power trembled. Among these powerful primordial spirits, there was one that could make the green, deep, mystical flame that Tianyang had refined tremble. It was the green, deep, mystical flame itself. Boom! However, before Tianyang could send the power of his primordial spirit into the castle to communicate with the green, deep celestial fire. A terrifying pressure exploded from the castle. In the next moment, Tianyang's primordial spirit power was blasted back. Tianyang opened his eyes. Before he could say a word, he spat out a mouthful of blood. "Master," Yin Xuanyuan's face changed. He looked at Tianyang and asked, "What happened?" According to Tianyang's calculation, even if he failed to communicate with the green, deep mystical flame, the power of a level 8 sacred flame was not enough to hurt Tianyang. However, Tianyang had just adjusted his primordial spirit power. Before he could speak, a terrifying explosion erupted. The mountain peak that the heavenly sun was on also collapsed at this moment. Oh no! Tianyang's face changed. His figure flashed, and he flew out with Yin Xuanyuan. Looking down at the ground, countless spiderweb-like cracks spread out in all directions with a flat ground as the center. The entire ground was torn into pieces by the crisscrossing cracks. At this moment, the expressions of the experts who were waiting for the green, deep mystical flame in the Zhongjua mountain range changed drastically. This was because the mountain that they were on was also destroyed by this sudden earthquake. What happened? He's face changed drastically. He stared at the mountain that had just collapsed. If not for the Void Mountain's Xiao Zun's quick reaction, they would have been buried inside. As for the other experts, their expressions were extremely ugly. Although the Zhongjua mountain range was surrounded by death qi, there had not been an earthquake for nearly 10,000 years. It had been less than 5 days since the birth of the green, deep mystical flame, and suddenly there was an earthquake. What did this mean? At this moment, Tianyang's face changed slightly. He thought of the ancient castle that he had discovered underground. The death qi in the Zhongjua mountain range not only spread on the surface, but also deep underground, causing the damage to the primordial spirit to be extremely terrifying. The primordial spirit of an ordinary sage state could not penetrate tens of thousands of meters deep. In other words, Tianyang might be the first person to detect the existence of the ancient castle underground. Furthermore, it was very likely that this earthquake was caused by his spying. What's going on? This is Tianyang gasped. It was just an investigation. Not only did his primordial spirit blast back his primordial spirit, but it also directly caused a huge earthquake. In the next moment, the center of the countless spiderweb-like cracks shook with a loud bang. The crimson ground instantly shattered. Countless rocks and soil splattered in all directions at a terrifying speed. Immediately after, a black ancient castle rose from the large hole that had been created by the explosion of the ground. Under the illumination of the sun, there was no reflection at all. It was as if the ancient castle was where the darkness was. Tianyang's pupils contracted to the extreme. It was not only because this ancient castle was the ancient castle that he had discovered previously. It was also because... Chapter 1338. The Aura of a Saint Emperor. Tianyang stared at the black castle, his eyes full of shock. Tianyang wouldn't be surprised if it was an earthly great saint or a heavenly great saint. Although great saints were rare, there were still some. However, it was different for a saint emperor. A saint emperor was the most powerful existence in this great world. There is only one saint emperor guarding a great state. There might be several dozen great sages, but even if he were to guess, it was impossible for him to guess that there were more than 10 sage emperors. Tianyang knew very well that the white-haired youth was about to step into the Saint Emperor realm and transform his aura. The enmity between them was unforgettable. Through the white-haired youth's half-holy Saint Emperor aura, he could deduce the true Saint Emperor aura. In this dark castle, it was a powerful existence that had surpassed the white-haired youth and stepped into the Saint Emperor realm. Saint Emperor, Tianyang was only guessing, but Void Mountain's Xiao Zun's expression changed drastically as he revealed the origin of this ancient castle. There's actually the aura of a Saint Emperor in this dark castle. Void Mountain's Xiao Zun exclaimed. However, the expressions of countless great saints changed slightly when they heard this. Saint Emperor? A cultivator might not know about Wu Zun or the Saint Realm, but they definitely wouldn't know about Saint Emperors. There was actually the aura of a Saint Emperor in the Zhongjua mountain range, and right in front of them. Kill. In an instant, countless great saints made a prompt decision and charged toward the dark castle. Even if it was just a strand of aura, it was enough for these great saints to risk their lives. Let's go to Void Mountains. Xiao Zun did the same. He immediately led Izwa and another Void Mountain traveler into the castle. Tianyang's eyes flashed, and his expression turned cold as he flew toward the dark castle. His purpose in coming to the Zhongjua mountain range was for the green profound flame. If he could obtain the green profound flame, he didn't care about the Saint Emperor castle. However, he had sensed that the green profound flame was in this dark castle. Therefore, Tianyang had no choice but to enter the dark citadel and fight with these great sages. However, before the first great sage could even step into the dark castle, an extremely powerful and frightening aura sent him flying backward. He spat out a mouthful of blood, but he didn't suffer any injuries. At this moment, an arrogant voice suddenly rang out from the dark ancient castle. "Have you finally discovered my castle?" Upon hearing this, everyone's expression changed. There were actually words left behind in this ancient castle. As expected, cultivators are a bunch of greedy people. As soon as he saw the Sage Emperor's fortuitous encounter, he rushed over without even taking a look. However, that voice's next sentence caused everyone's expressions to turn ugly. No one would be in a good mood after being judged like that. However, even the young master of the Void Mountain did not dare say anything. After all, this ancient castle was very likely a powerful artifact left behind by a Sage Emperor. If they want to take it down, they would naturally have to bear the full brunt of this Sage Emperor. Such an arrogant personality is very rare among Sage Emperors, and it's also in the Southern Devil Sea. Who is this Sage Emperor? The young master of the Void Mountain muttered to himself. In the next moment, that voice rang out again. "Do you want my inheritance? Ha ha ha. Go and find it. This emperor has placed all of my treasures there. I am the World Inferno Demon Emperor." Hearing this, everyone was stunned, and a few great sages were also shocked. The World Inferno Demon Emperor? The World Inferno Demon Emperor, who controlled the green profound flame and could easily refine all the pills in the world. He even forcibly used the gentle flames of the green profound flame to unleash a terrifying power. Back then, the World Inferno Demon Emperor covered the sky with one hand. Even the Almighty of the Divine Central Continent was suppressed by the World Inferno Demon Emperor. Who would have thought that the inheritance that no one found after he died for hundreds of thousands of years would actually be here? Everyone was in disbelief. At this moment, the pressure that coiled around the entire dark, ancient castle slowly dissipated. Everyone had no time to be amazed. They immediately used all their skills and burst forth with extreme speed, rushing into the dark, ancient castle. The World Inferno Demon Emperor was the most powerful demon emperor of his generation. If they could obtain the World Inferno Demon Emperor's inheritance, they might be able to step into the great sage realm in the future. The young master of the Void Mountain and Tianyang were not slow either. They stepped through the door immediately. However, as soon as Tianyang stepped through the door, his expression changed slightly. There's a trap in this door. In an instant, streaks of silvery white spatial power enveloped Tianyang, Yun Xinyuan, and everyone else who stepped through the door at this time. In the next second, everyone's figures disappeared. Next, dozens of great sages appeared in the middle of a huge hall. Ha ha! As expected, cultivators are all greedy people who can't control their own desires. Did you rush in directly after hearing that it was me? At this moment, the World Inferno Demon Emperor's arrogant voice sounded again. What would happen if this emperor were to kill all of you? The World Inferno Demon Emperor laughed loudly. Everyone's expression changed when they heard this. The World Inferno Demon Emperor was the invincible demon emperor who was said to be able to burn the entire Xintian Great World. If he attacked, no one present would be able to survive. A ball of true destructive flames burned around Tianyang's body. Previously, the white-haired young half-holy emperor had killed Tianyang in an instant. If a terrifying existence like the world Inferno Demon Emperor attacked now, Tianyang might not even be able to survive one attack. Haha, are you afraid? However, I'm still kind after all. Do whatever you want. You want my inheritance? Let's walk out of this hall first. Ha ha. The World Inferno Demon Emperor laughed loudly. Everyone was stunned when they heard this and walked out of the hall. At this moment, everyone realized that there was no one in the hall. There was no way out. It was completely sealed in this place. As expected of the Demon Emperor, even when choosing an inheritor, he is so vicious. At this moment, a great sage snorted coldly. It's just a hall. Do you think it can stop us? In the next moment, the great sage formed a seal with both hands. Streaks of spatial power erupted. It directly teleported them out. However, just as the great sage finished forming the spatial teleportation seal, the spatial power that had teleported everyone here suddenly appeared. In an instant, streaks of spatial blades surrounded the great sage. The great sage's pupil shrank. Before he could say anything, he was directly cut into pieces by the spatial blades. Blood spurted out wildly. Chapter 1339. In the blink of an eye, the great sage was sliced into pieces by the space blades that came from all directions. The sight of blood splattering everywhere was too horrifying. Even though everyone present had killed more than 1 million people, they were all horrified when they saw the great sage being killed in an instant. The great sage was killed without being able to resist at all. It was even cleaner than killing a pig. At least, killing a pig required time to break its neck. Killing a great sage was different. In the blink of an eye, the great sage was gone. A chill ran down their spines and rushed straight to the top of their heads. Everyone's expression turned ugly. Damn it, he doesn't even allow us to teleport. Does the Demon Emperor want us to break through the wall and get out? At this moment, a shirtless great sage of the human grade, who was showing off his explosive muscles, roared angrily. Hearing this, everyone turned to look at him. That person was a famous great sage of the southern demon ghost region. He was known as the demon-shredding great sage, and he could tear his enemies in half with his bare hands. If even the demon-shredding great sage said so, wouldn't it be extremely difficult for them to get out? In the next moment, the demon-shredding great sage roared and charged toward the wall of the great hall. The true origin of a human-grade great sage burst out. Demon-breaking heaven-extinguishing fist. The demon-shredding great sage roared, and purple light shone on his fist. It turned into a powerful fist force and slammed into the wall. However, the wall did not even tremble. It sent the demon-shredding great sage flying backward. However, this time, the demon-shredding great sage was not killed by the space blades. He only spat out a mouthful of blood because of the backlash. Is attacking the wall the way to get out? Seeing that the demon-shredding great sage was not killed, everyone's eyes lit up. The great sage was killed because he wanted to use the space Dao to teleport out. It was a trick. The demon-shredding great sage had attacked the wall, but he was injured by the backlash. He was not killed by the power of the Demon Emperor. As long as they destroyed the wall, they could get out. However, at this moment, someone noticed that the runes on the wall were flashing and lighting up. Everyone was also stunned. In the next moment, they immediately flew up and focused on the mysterious rune. Perhaps that rune was the key to their escape. Tianyang was no exception. He led Yun Xinyuan to one of the walls with runes. However, the runes on it were completely different from any runes Tianyang had seen before. It was completely different from the runes in the Xiantian Great World. What is this? Scribbles? At this moment, a great sage shouted angrily, "What kind of rune is this?" Masterly stepped into the saint realm by relying on the way of runes. Even he doesn't recognize these runes? Some of the great sages who didn't recognize what the runes were smiled bitterly when they saw Master Li scolding them. Even the saints of the Tao of Talismans didn't know what these talismans were. How could they, the great saints who were trash in the Tao of Talismans, see through the mystery of these talismans? However, Tianyang frowned slightly as he looked at the rune in front of him. Why do I feel that these runes look a little familiar? Tianyang was stunned. Although he only dabbled in the Tao of Talismans, he still knew what the runes in the Xiantian Great World looked like. They were completely different from the strange runes in front of him. They didn't look very similar to the runes in the Tianshao Great World either. However, Tianyang felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. It was as if he had seen them a few times and had been in close contact with them. Master Li, you have the highest cultivation in the Tao of Talismans among all the people present. Why don't you try to decipher the pattern of these runes? At this moment, a great sage had to lower his head and plead. Everyone had their own specialization. They were a bunch of great sages who hadn't even used talismans many times. Compared to a Master Li who had become a saint in the Tao of Talismans, they would be defeated in seconds. Therefore, even a great sage at the peak of the human grade had to lower his head to Master Li, who was an ordinary human grade great sage. These runes are almost of a different system from the runes in the Xiantian Great World. However, the way they operate their energy is not hidden. If you give me some time, I should be able to make some progress. Master Li was the only one present who specialized in the Tao of Talismans. Therefore, he didn't give up just because he saw a rune that he didn't recognize at all. Instead, a look of deep interest appeared in his eyes. He sat down cross-legged and studied it carefully. The young master of the Void Mountain was completely powerless at this moment. Although he had become a saint with 4 divine paths, and the power of his primordial spirit was strong, it had nothing to do with the Tao of Talismans. If he wanted to break through the first test of the world-burning Demon Emperor, he still had to rely on Master Li. On the other hand, Tianyang ignored the talisman Tao Great Saint and stared at the countless runes. The runes were connected to each other and almost formed a huge formation. Even with Tianyang's cultivation in the Tao of formations, he could see through some of it. However, I still have to see what the use of this formation is. Tianyang's lips curled up. He knew nothing about the Tao of Talismans, but when it came to the Tao of formations, almost no one present could compare to him. In the next moment, the divine wilderness heaven spirit art was activated. Dragon patterns on the surface of Tianyang's body shone. Body of the Dragon Emperor, activate. Then Tianyang punched out. Boom! The terrifying power of the physical sanctification body directly shattered this part of the void and violently bombarded the wall. The runes on the wall also lit up. A terrifying rebound force came, but Tianyang's expression didn't change. He easily withstood the rebound force. The expression on his face was somewhat solemn. Reverse array formation? No, I'm afraid it's not just that. In the next moment, the great void sword embryo appeared in Tianyang's hand. Then he slashed out with his sword. Sword breaking 9 barons. The power of the sage realm, Sword Tao, erupted. An incomparably sharp sword light fiercely bombarded the countless runes. At this moment, the countless runes also changed instantly. The runes intertwined and moved. In the blink of an eye, they formed a brand new rune sequence. At the same time, Tianyang's sword cleaving 9 desolates was also directly absorbed by this brand new rune sequence. What the hell? Seeing this, Tianyang's expression immediately turned ugly. These runes could change? Originally, Tianyang planned to test the structure of this rune array and then directly destroy it with a wave of reverse formation. But now, let's try again. Tianyang snorted coldly. On his right fist, streaks of true flames of destruction burned. In an instant, he punched out. Boom! A deafening explosion erupted and resounded throughout the entire main hall. However, Tianyang's pupils completely contracted. Clearly, the rune sequence didn't change at all. He couldn't even see any signs of the rune sequence being activated. However, the true flames of destruction that he blasted out, they were actually swallowed by the runes themselves. Tianyang's expression changed slightly. In his mind, he seemed to have remembered something. He must have seen this strange rune that could swallow flames somewhere before. Yin Xianyuan, who was beside him, noticed the change in Tianyang and asked with concern what happened. Hearing Yin Xuanyuan's question, Tianyang's body shook. Looking at the true flames of destruction that were completely swallowed, a light flashed in his mind. He remembered. Chapter 1340. The strange runes could devour flames. Moreover, the ability to devour flames was not formed by the rune sequence, but by the runes themselves. Tianyang had indeed seen this kind of rune before, and more than once. Luo Luo, Tianyang whispered in his heart. At this moment, Bai Luluo, who had been in a deep sleep in the heavenly pagoda that Tianyang had transferred to the Vientiane sky ruins, woke up. Father, ever since Tianyang had left the Tianshao Great World, he had been curious about Bai Luluo's condition. Bai Luo had never been curious about the outside world, nor had she made any requests. She had only suddenly appeared in the Tianshao Great World to help Tianyang block the attack of the spirit of demonic qi. Other than that, she would remain in a deep sleep as long as Tianyang did not wake her up. At first, Tianyang had thought that it was the aftereffects of the celestial wolf walker freezing Bai Luo for so many years. However, so many years had passed. How could there be any aftereffects? These symptoms had worsened after Tianyang had left the Tianshao Great World. As long as Tianyang did not wake her up, she would remain in a deep sleep. Even when Tianyang had transferred the heavenly pagoda to the Vientiane sky ruins, such a huge commotion had not awakened by Luo. However, if Tianyang woke her up, she would wake up full of vitality. Moreover, every time she woke up after a period of time, her aura would become stronger and stronger. This time, it had been about 3 years since she had woken up. In these 3 years, by Loloa's aura, she had already stepped into the beginner stage of the half-saint realm. She could become stronger even in her sleep. Tianyang was speechless about this, but Tianyang was quite happy that his daughter was strong. Luo, come out for a moment. Tianyang smiled as he recalled how speechless he had been when Bai Luo had suddenly called him father, and the warmth he had felt when he had taken care of Bai Luo with Ling Yuhan. Tianyang couldn't help but smile. Daddy, why did you call Luo? With a flash of white light, Bai Luo walked out of the Vientiane sky ruins. At this moment, Tianyang suddenly realized that it wasn't just his cultivation that had become stronger. Bai Luo's body also underwent a great change. When she first saw Bai Luo was only about 1.23 meters tall and looked like she was only 7 or 8 years old. Now, Bai Luo was at least 1.4 meters tall, and she was probably around 11 or 13 years old. Although Bai Luo hadn't changed at all compared to the changes in the outside world, Tianyang was able to tell right away after not seeing her for so long. However, while Tianyang was interacting affectionately with his daughter, Yin Xinyuan froze on the spot, as if she had been struck by lightning. Daughter? Yin Xinyuan found it hard to imagine that Tianyang, who looked like a decent person, actually had a daughter in secret. She had followed Tianyang for so long, but she had never seen Tianyang call Bai Luo out. This wasn't the main point. The main point was, when did Tianyang and Ling Yuhan have a daughter? Oh, I forgot to introduce her. This is my daughter, Bai Luo. Only then did Tianyang remember that there was still Xinyuan Yin beside him. He immediately chuckled and said, when did you have a daughter? Yin Xinyuan stuttered as she stared at Tianyang in disbelief. When did you have a daughter? Tianyang was taken aback, and then a trace of nostalgia appeared on his face. More than 10 years ago. Xinyuan Yun's face turned pale when she saw that. Bai Luo also looked like she was in her teens. Ling Yuhan didn't even tell me that she actually had a daughter. Because she was too emotional, Xinyuan Yun didn't even think and directly open her mouth. Tianyang and Ling Yuhan even had a daughter? This fact was too shocking, to the point that Xinyuan Yun had forgotten her own identity. Tianyang was taken aback. Luo isn't Yuhan's. Yun Xinyuan was stunned, and the way she looked at Tianyang changed. Someone entrusted Luo to me. Tianyang didn't explain too much. He held Bai Luo's hand and walked in front of the wall. Luo, do you recognize these runes? Tianyang smiled, but he didn't have much hope in his heart. When Bai Luo used these runes, she didn't seem to have any impression of them. It might be some kind of talent. Tianyang was too agitated. so he let Bai Luoluo come out. I recognized them. However, Bai Luo's happy shouts startled Tianyang. These are all delicious. Bai Luoluo broke free from Tianyang's hand and stretched her hand toward the wall filled with runes. Wait a minute. Tianyang instantly became anxious when he saw this. These walls were even able to resist his sword splitter. If they possessed offensive properties, then even if Bai Luoluo was an initial rank half-saint, she wouldn't be able to resist a single attack from the talisman. However, before Tianyang could do anything, Bai Luoluo touched the runes. Then she pulled with force. A piece of rune was broken off. Huh? Tianyang was dumbfounded. In the next moment, Bai Luoluo opened her mouth and stuffed the runes into it. Crunch, crunch. A hair-raising sound rang. In less than 3 seconds, the rune was swallowed into Bai Luo's stomach. Tianyang's expression changed. The power of his primordial spirit clearly sensed that after he swallowed the rune, the primordial spirit's power had clearly changed. Luoluo's power had increased a little. Although it was hard to detect, she had indeed become a little stronger. Wow, delicious. However, Bai Luoluo didn't notice it at all. She pulled with force and pulled out another rune. Then Tianyang and Yun Xinyuan watched in disbelief as Bai Luoluo ate and pulled out a small portion of the runes on the wall and swallowed them. Why was it a small portion? Because Bai Luoluo was only 4 meters tall. Compared to the 10-meter tall wall, it was only a small portion. The ones above are delicious too. Daddy Luoluo wants them. At this moment, Bai Luoluo jumped with force but didn't touch the higher runes. She immediately became anxious. It seemed that Bai Luoluo knew that these runes were edible, but didn't know that she could fly with her power. Daddy can't catch these delicious things. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled bitterly. Bai Luoluo's big meal just now had directly swallowed all the runes in the square that was 4 meters wide and 4 meters tall. Tianyang had also tested it. The defensive power of the wall came from these runes. Without the runes, the defensive power of the wall itself couldn't even withstand a punch from a Dao Fire Realm cultivator. Daddy can't catch them? This is for you. You can catch them if I give them to you. At this moment, Bai Luoluo jumped in front of Tianyang. A white flame had unknowingly burned on her hands. Then, she jumped up and slapped the back of Tianyang's hand with both hands. The flame was transmitted to Tianyang's hands. And in Tianyang's perception, in an instant, those runes turned from formless lines into tangible existences. He reached out and grabbed. A rune was caught in his hand. Daddy is so awesome. Seeing that the runes in the place where she couldn't reach were easily caught by Tianyang, Bai Luoluo immediately cried out in excitement. Tianyang looked at his hands with a solemn expression. He clearly felt that when the white flame approached, some of the runes instantly trembled and lost their ability to move freely. They could only be captured by the white flame. Tianyang also noticed that these runes in his hands were completely different from those in Bai Luoluo's hands. The runes in Bai Luoluo's hands were solid as if they were real. However, the runes in Tianyang's hands were like liquid and were rapidly evaporating. Tianyang hurriedly handed this rune to Bai Luoluo. Just as he was about to grab a pile of runes for Bai Luoluo to eat, a greedy voice sounded from the side. This little guy can eat these runes? Chapter 1341. Tianyang's face darkened when he heard this. Yun Xinyuan, who was standing next to him, immediately released streams of mysterious Yin energy. Although Yun Xinyuan didn't know what was going on with Bai Luoluo, he was still captivated by her cuteness. Now, someone actually dared to snatch Bai Luoluo away? Yun Xinyuan would never let this go. What? A piece of trash who doesn't seem to have any power, a piece of trash who doesn't even dare to show his face, dares to go against me, the demon-shredding Grand Sage? The person who spoke was the demon-shredding Grand Sage, who was the first to punch the wall of runes and was sent flying by the rebound force. He was the demon-shredding Grand Sage, but he couldn't even break a small wall. He was even sent flying by the wall and spat out blood. The demon-shredding Grand Sage was one of the most powerful beings in the southern demon-shredding Grand Sage's territory. However, if he used brute force to attack the wall, he might not be able to break it even if he was given 10,000 years. He happened to see Bai Luo devouring runes on Tianyang's side. Naturally, he wanted to snatch her away. If he could get Bai Luo over, wouldn't that mean that the wall wouldn't be able to stop the demon-shredding Grand Sage at all? This way, he would be able to step out of the Great Hall first. He might even be able to obtain the inheritance of the Inferno Demon Emperor. As for Tianyang and Yin Xianyuan, who were standing next to Bai Luo, the demon-shredding Grand Sage naturally ignored them. Even if he wasn't the strongest here, he was still one of the strongest. It would be a piece of cake for him to deal with two people whose auras he couldn't sense and who were pretending to be mysterious. If you know what's good for you, hand over that little girl. Speaking of which, I've lived for hundreds of thousands of years. I've tasted all kinds of women, but I've never tasted a teenage girl. You too, hand her over to me. Maybe I'll return her to you after I'm done with her. Ha ha ha. The demon-shredding Grand Sage laughed loudly. This was the southern demon-shredding Grand Sage. As long as he had the power, he could do anything he wanted without fear. With the demon-shredding Grand Sage's power, if he were to find someone else, that person would probably submit to his power and kneel on the ground and beg for mercy. Unfortunately, the demon-shredding Grand Sage had kicked an iron plate this time. Dad, what is he saying? Even Bai Luo could sense the murderous aura emanating from the demon-shredding Grand Sage and the sinister smile on his face. The expression on his face gradually turned into one of fear. Luo, be good. This uncle is just looking for death. Your big sister Yin will kill him immediately. Seeing Bai Luo's pitiful appearance, Yin Xuanyuan's heart instantly ached. He rubbed Bai Luo's clean and pure white hair and said. Afterwards, Yin Xianyuan was about to make a move. But, as soon as he lifted his head, he saw Tianyang walk out with a cold expression. One of Tianyang's reverse scales was Ling Yuhan. The other was Bai Luo, or they could be collectively referred to as family. What's with that scowl? Kneel down and kowtow to me. At the same time, the demon-shredding Grand Sage saw Tianyang's cold face. He felt uncomfortable and growled in a low voice. However, at this moment, Tianyang made his move. He glanced at the demon-shredding Grand Sage indifferently and waved his hand. It was the demonic flame that he obtained from the great Lord of Heaven. The demonic flame burned fiercely, and in an instant, it burned the demon-shredding Grand Sage's body. You still want to resist? Seeing this, the demon-shredding Grand Sage laughed sinisterly. He released his true yuan in an attempt to extinguish the demonic flame. It seems like he's a newbie from the Southern Devil Ghost region or a country bumpkin from some remote mountain. He doesn't even have the reputation of the demon-shredding Grand Sage. What the hell is this? However, to the demon-shredding Grand Sage's surprise, his true yuan was completely ineffective against the black flame on his body. His expression changed abruptly, and in the next moment, the demon-shredding Grand Sage lifted his head. A murderous look flashed across his eyes, and he charged towards Tianyang. I don't care what the hell this is. As long as I kill you, everything will be fine. The demon-shredding Grand Sage roared angrily. In the next moment, the muscles on his arms expanded explosively and turned into a giant arm that was 10 feet long and wide. Gigantic spirit-killing fist. As he punched, it was as if the legendary gigantic spirit god had descended upon the world. However, Tianyang's expression was still as cold as ever. He waved his right hand. In midair, a huge palm was instantly formed. Seeing this, the demon-shredding Grand Sage was stunned. In the next moment, the giant palm descended from the sky. Boom! The demon-shredding Grand Sage was smashed into a bloody pulp. In an instant, he was killed. As for the gigantic spirit avatar behind the demon-shredding Grand Sage, it slowly dissipated as it lost the support of its true yuan. Tianyang stretched out his hand, and the demon-shredding Grand Sage's primordial spirit appeared in his hand. Before the demon-shredding Grand Sage could utter a single word, Tianyang squeezed his primordial spirit. Boom! Fragments of the primordial spirit flew everywhere. The demon-shredding Grand Sage was completely dead. Only 3 seconds had passed since the start of the battle. Hiss! Seeing this, the faces of the people who had been watching the battle were filled with fear. As one of the strongest people in the dark ancient castle, the demon-shredding Grand Sage naturally attracted many people's attention. In the end, in less than 3 seconds, the demon-shredding Grand Sage had turned into a pool of blood. Tianyang, on the other hand, was expressionless as he threw the demon-shredding Grand Sage's space bag into the Vientiane sky market. "All right." Tianyang turned around and said with a warm smile on his face. To Tianyang, killing a great sage in 3 seconds was nothing. Even Yun Xianyuan, who had seen Tianyang suppress the earthly great sage Xianyuan Kongming, was shocked at this moment. Disregarding everything else, just this efficiency alone was enough to shock him. Wasn't this a little too fast? In fact, Tianyang's true Yuan had broken through to the intermediate saint realm. His primordial spirit had also made a breakthrough. His physical strength had also strengthened a lot, and he was close to the great success of the body of the Dragon Emperor. At this moment, he was equivalent to Tianyang, who had used the sky-devouring secret skill when he had attacked the Xianyuan family. What was so strange about killing a great sage in seconds? It didn't take him long to kill the Thunder Great Sage. Tianyang had become a saint with the 9 Saints path, and the Chaos Origin had brought him invincible among his peers. He was also invincible among those of a higher level. Then, Tianyang reached out and waved his hand. The white flame given by Luoluo burned brightly and directly plucked out countless runes. Luoluo's small hands couldn't even hold it. All right. These are enough for Luoluo to eat." Seeing that Tianyang still wanted to pluck more, Luoluo was anxious and ate the hundreds of runes in her hand. Then, she jumped and took the white flame back from Tianyang's hand. Tianyang suddenly realized that he had lost control of those runes. "I'm full. Luoluo is going to sleep," Luoluo said happily. However, in the next second, Luoluo closed her eyes and fell into a deep sleep. Seeing this, Yun Xianyuan, who had never seen Luoluo in such a state, became anxious. Tianyang, on the other hand, smiled bitterly. Luoluo could still sleep even after being called out. "It's okay, Luoluo likes to sleep." After safely putting Luoluo back into the Vientiane sky ruins, Tianyang turned his head and looked at the wall. A clean and neat punch was thrown out. Boom! The wall, which had lost the protection of the runes, exploded instantly. Tianyang and Yun Xianyuan walked out of the hall. At the same time, the Vientiane divine flame was circulating in Tianyang's body. Chapter 1342. Just as Tianyang killed the demon-shredding Grand Sage, broke through the wall, and arrived outside the hall, a strange black hole suddenly appeared in front of Void Mountain's Shao Zun amidst the countless runes. The black hole gradually expanded, and the surrounding runes were forced out of their original positions by the black hole. "Let's go." Void Mountain's Shao Zun chuckled. Hearing this, the mid-level sage and He-Izwo were already shocked beyond words. Grandmaster Li was still studying the laws and essence of these runes, but Void Mountain's Shao Zun had directly opened a door by force. Because the hall was extremely spacious, Tianyang and Yun Xianyuan had chosen a position that was directly opposite Void Mountain Shao Zun and the other two. Neither Tianyang nor Void Mountain's Shao Zun noticed that the other party had already opened the door. Yes, it seems that the inheritance of the world-burning demon emperor must be Lord Shao Zun's. The mid-level sage laughed loudly. Void Mountain's Shao Zun's smile didn't change, and he stepped into the black hole. After the three of them left, the black hole slowly closed. However, there was no way to restore the wall, whereby Luoluo had eaten a large number of runes. It would depend on when the remaining people would discover the exit left by Tianyang. Although I already sensed it in the outside world, I didn't expect it to be so strong after stepping into the dark ancient castle. Tianyang exclaimed in surprise. If the surroundings were compared to the night sky, and the spiritual fire was compared to the stars, previously, Tianyang had sensed an insignificant speck of starlight in the endless night sky. Now, Tianyong only felt like he was observing a blazing sun. Master, don't you need any other martial techniques in Elixir Hall? Yun Xianyuan was puzzled. Hearing this, Tianyong's expression didn't change. He directly flew out and headed straight for the location of the green deep mystic fire. Are martial techniques, elixirs, and divine weapons more important than a strand of Yuhan's hair? After refining the green deep mystic fire, Ling Yuhan would only recover from being frozen and might not be able to wake up. However, Tianyong could not wait any longer. As long as the Ling Yuhan's power returned to Ling Yuhan's body, Tianyong had 10,000 ways to wake Ling Yuhan up. Once the Boundless Nine transformations was unleashed, the current Tianyong was only a hair's breadth away from the sixth transformation of the Boundless Nine transformations. His explosive speed made Yun Xianyuan almost unable to catch up. However, Yun Xianyuan felt a little sad when he heard this. Xiao Zun, what should we do next? The Medicinal Pill Hall or the Martial Skills Hall? On the other side, a mid-level saint from Void Mountain said excitedly. They had only come out with Lord Xiao Zun, but they had encountered the world-burning Demon Emperor's inheritance. If not for the fact that he had to follow the Void Mountain Xiao Zun, this mid-level sage could not wait to explore the Martial Technique Hall. The legendary world-burning Demon Emperor was a saint emperor who excelled in both alchemy and martial arts. Although he had never reached the Saint Emperor realm in alchemy, he could still be called the top alchemist today. No. However, to the mid-level sage's surprise, the Void Mountain's Xiao Zun shook his head. Even if we don't go to the Medicinal Pill Hall, the Martial Skills Hall is still very valuable. The mid-level sage did not understand. The Void Mountain's Xiao Zun said indifferently, Have you forgotten what our original goal was? The green deep mystic fire. Izwa said quickly, but there was some hesitation on his face. But the green deep mystic fire might not be more valuable than the Saint Emperor martial skills. However, if the world-burning Demon Emperor really left behind an inheritance, then it's most likely in the green deep mystic fire. The Void Mountain's Xiao Zun smiled. Realization dawned on Izwa and Yun Xianyuan. Although I can't sense it clearly, it's in that direction. The Void Mountain's Xiao Zun said. The two of them nodded heavily. The Void Mountain's Xiao Zun grabbed the two of them and disappeared into the void. His actual body, on the other hand, was charging towards the location of the green profound flame at lightning speed. Soon, Tianyong and Yun Xianyuan arrived at the depths of the dark ancient castle. However, to Tianyong's surprise, the green deep mystic fire was not stored in a hall. Instead, it was placed right in the middle of an altar, right in the middle. Tianyong's expression changed slightly. There must be a reason for this abnormality. The world-burning Demon Emperor was the Demon Emperor who dominated the southern demon ghost region. How could he leave his spiritual fire here for others to take? At this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. The three from the Void Mountain immediately appeared in front of Tianyong. It's you. The Void Mountain's Xiao Zun's expression changed when he saw Tianyong. A rare look of fear appeared on his face. The Void Mountain's Xiao Zun also had a deep impression of Tianyong. His sage primordial spirit could vaguely sense that even the sage primordial spirit he was so proud of trembled in fear of Tianyong's power. Now that they were fighting for the green deep mystic fire, this meant that Tianyong would definitely be his opponent. Does Lord Xiao Zun know someone? Izwa and Yun Xianyuan's expressions changed when they heard this. The Void Mountain's Xiao Zun rarely went out. Other than the people of the Void Mountain, no one would know him. However, if there was someone, it would definitely be a super genius on the same level as the Void Mountain Xiao Zun. No. The Void Mountain Xiao Zun shook his head and looked at Tianyong gravely. I met this person for the first time not long ago. However, this person's primordial spirit doesn't seem to be inferior to mine. The Void Mountain's Xiao Zun said. Izwa and Yun Xianyuan's expressions changed when they heard this. The Void Mountain's Xiao Zun was an essence soul sage whose primordial spirit had become a sage. Now, he was even a human great sage. The power of his primordial spirit was much stronger than when he had just become an essence soul sage. Even the Void Mountain's Shao Zun was wary. How could he be inferior? Could the power of this person's primordial spirit have reached the advanced stage of the sage state? Or even the sage state? Master, you know him? At this moment, Xin Yuan Yin also noticed Tianyang's reaction. Her lips curled into a smile as she asked curiously. She had no impression of these three people at all. May I know your name? The Void Mountain's Shao Zun spoke first. I am the Void Mountain's Shao Zun. Xin Yuan Yun's expression instantly changed when she heard this. The Void Mountain was recognized as the strongest force in the Xiantian Great World. The Void Mountain's Shao Zun could be said to be the only candidate to inherit the Void Mountain in the future. The white-robed youth in front of her was actually the future successor of the Void Mountain. Su Tianxiao. Tianyang couldn't underestimate the Void Mountain's Shao Zun too much, so he chuckled. The Void Mountain's Shao Zun pondered for a while. He couldn't remember Su Tianxiao at all. Just as he was about to say something, he was interrupted by wild laughter. Ha 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 ha. There are still people in this world who know what's good for them. You guessed right. The inheritance of the world, Inferno Demon Emperor, is in the green, profound fire. It was the voice of the world, Inferno Demon Emperor. Chapter 1343. World Inferno Demon Emperor. Tianyang had not expected that the World Inferno Demon Emperor would appear at the location of the green, deep mystical fire. Logically speaking, the World Inferno Demon Emperor's voice should have appeared at a special place of inheritance. That was why Tianyang had gone straight to the green, deep mystical fire. In the end, it seemed that he had hit the jackpot and encountered the inheritance of the World Inferno Demon Emperor. God had taken pity on him. He really only wanted the green, deep mystical fire. Ha ha! The others have probably already gone to some Bulsh Astris Tea, Elixir Hall, and Martial Skills Hall. There is indeed something there, but the strongest is only an earthly great saint. If they knew, they would probably die of anger on the spot. Ha ha ha! The World Inferno Demon Emperor laughed loudly. His laughter was extremely wild and arrogant. It was as if those who had gone to the Elixir Hall and Martial Skills Hall were insignificant ants not worth mentioning. Upon hearing that, Tianyang's expression changed. He silently mourned for those who had chosen the wrong place. It was just a choice, and he missed out on the inheritance of the world's scorching Demon Emperor, a peerless Demon Emperor from hundreds of thousands of years ago. Then, which one of you wants my inheritance? At that moment, the World Inferno Demon Emperor's voice sounded again. Then, the green, deep mystical fire burned fiercely in the air. It turned into a human figure. The figure was tall and about 189 meters. He wore a ferocious crimson armor. Because his face was formed by the green, deep mystical fire, only a silhouette could be seen. However, this silhouette could also reveal the handsomeness of the World Inferno Demon Emperor when he was alive. The World Inferno Demon Emperor's lips curled into a smile as his unruly and evil gaze swept across Tianyang, the World Inferno Demon Emperor, and the others. Or do all of you want it? Wait. At this moment, the Void Mountain's Shao Zun spoke, his face full of fear and solemnity. Are you the remnant soul of the world-burning Demon Emperor or someone else? Hearing this, the Inferno Demon Emperor was stunned. Then, a proud look appeared on his face. Of course, I'm the Inferno Demon Emperor. Speak. Which of you is it that needs my inheritance? The World Incineration Demon Emperor said proudly. His words were filled with an unquestionable dominance. However, Tianyang's brows furrowed slightly as he instinctively felt that something was amiss. At this moment, Yin Xinyuan and He Yizwa spoke at the same time. It wasn't me. Oh. Hearing this, the World Inferno Demon Emperor raised his eyebrows. You're quite something. Then, that's easy. Only 2 of you are left. If you want to acquire my succession, let's have a duel. I will only give my power to those who have it. The World Inferno Demon Emperor laughed heartily. Hearing this, Tianyang's eyes flashed with a solemn look. He remembered that before the power of primordial spirit discovered the dark ancient castle, he had discovered the corpse of a sage. That corpse had appeared not far from the dark ancient castle, and it did not look like it had died for long. Tianyong naturally did not believe that it had nothing to do with the world Inferno Demon Emperor. I'm sorry, Brother Su. It's better to give the Demon Emperor's inheritance to the Void Mountain. At this moment, the Void Mountains, Shao Zun roared and suddenly attacked. Terrifying void blades shot out. Tianyong's expression changed slightly. His thoughts were instantly interrupted. He snorted coldly and waved his right hand. Demonic flames burned. The Void Mountain Shao Zun was the person with the highest status in the Void Mountain, second only to the master of the Void Mountain. He might even know about him, who was wanted by the Xianyuan family. In that case, he could not easily let the Void Mountain's Shao Zun know his identity. Demonic flame explosion. Tianyong roared in a low voice. Countless demonic flames spurted out and condensed into fireballs in the air. Then, there was an unparalleled explosion. The countless blades that contained powerful void power were destroyed by the explosion. At this moment, Tianyong used the Heavenly Expanse 9 transformations. His figure flashed, and he appeared in front of the Void Mountain's Shao Zun. He did not show any mercy and directly punched. Dragon King's unparalleled fist. Boom! This punch fiercely bombarded the Void Mountain's Shao Zun's face. However, strangely, Tianyong did not feel like he had hit flesh at all. Instead, his right fist felt as if it had hit a piece of mud. Boom! Dragon power erupted. Tianyong withdrew his right fist. At the place where the Void Mountain's Shao Zun had been, it had been covered by the Void Distortions. The Void Mountain's signature move, the Void Body Tempering Art? Interesting. Tianyong snorted coldly and quickly withdrew his hand. He looked at the Void Mountain's Shao Zun, who had suddenly appeared in the distance, with a solemn expression. The Void Mountain was the top sect in the world. There must be a Saint Emperor in it. The Void Body Tempering Art was also a powerful technique of the Saint Emperor realm. It cultivated both Tao and body and was extremely powerful. Moreover, Tianyong could see that the Void Mountain's Shao Zun in front of him was also on the path of becoming a saint with 3 vital essences. The primordial spirit and vital essence had become a saint. He was only a step away from becoming a saint with his physical body. As for the other 2 great paths, the Void Body Tempering Art is this powerful. Ordinary attacks are useless against it. The Void Mountain's Shao Zun chuckled. In the next moment, he waved his right hand. Numerous void swords appeared in his hand. His figure suddenly disappeared. It was not because his body technique was fast, but because he had merged into the space. Void slash. In the next moment, a fatal slash flew toward Tianyong. Boom! To the Void Mountain's Shao Zun's surprise, Tianyong actually reacted. He turned around in time and flipped his hand to hold a pitch-black sword. In the next moment, the power of the Saint Realm Sword principle bloomed. The Chaos Origin operated. Thousands of deity realms and Saint Realm Sword realm. Kill! Tianyong roared. The Saint Realm Sword realm condensed a supreme sword formation and blasted toward the Void Mountain Shao Zun. As expected of someone I acknowledge. The Void Mountain's Shao Zun also smiled faintly. His white robe fluttered in the wind. At the same time, the sword in the Void Mountain's Shao Zun's hand flashed with a dark color. The sword slashed down. Space-splitting sword. Under the sword, the space was split open. It was not an ordinary sword slash that relied on a powerful force to split open the space. Instead, it was because the sword itself had the terrifying property of slicing through space. The sword slashed down. The power of the sword itself and the power of shattering space perfectly overlapped. It blasted toward the great void sword embryo. Sword breaking 9 desolation. Tianyong roared. The majestic power of the Saint Realm Sword principle burst forth. With the power of the Saint Realm Sword principle that even earthly supreme saints could not contend against, he forcibly repelled the space-splitting sword. Even the Void Mountain's Shao Zun was forcefully slashed back dozens of feet. Tianyong also knew the Saint Realm that the Void Mountain's Shao Zun cultivated. The Void Tao, the Saint Realm Sword Principle.